Welcome, one and all, to the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast 2022 Year in Review. I am your King of Extreme, Phil KOE, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands, one damn handsome man, if I do say so myself. We are here at Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. But of course, I am Phil KOE of KOE Nation on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch. And I am joined this evening by my two indomitable broadcast partners, all the way from the land of tundra. The one, the only.
Your 9-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, your big bucking Emperor Chicken. It's good to be back on Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. Feel like it's been a while.
It has, and we are also joined this evening by the reigning, defending, is it 13 or 14 time?
It's 14.
14 time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, but who's counting? And also the current reigning, defending, decades-long Revolutionary Extreme Wrestling champion. Yes, Tony Two Belts himself. Tony, how are we doing this evening?
Yes, it is I, the 14-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, non-chill filtered, non-COPPA friendly. And yes, I left 2022 the champ, and I am ringing it in as champ. That's the first time in a long time, folks. Holy shit. Tony fucking G. Like, share, subscribe, folks. Yes, it has been a hot minute since we have last been with you live, folks, at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. No live events in December. I mean, the last thing we did was Survivor Series, folks, and we're finally coming back around. We got the Royal Rumble coming up here in just a couple of, 2-3 short weeks. It's almost WrestleMania season. I mean, we're ready to hunker down for a stellar, fantastic, and probably shit-filled 2023 here at the RWP. So, with that being said, folks, what you are watching, listening, and reviewing now, is the 2022 Year in Review and Award Show. Folks, this is one of the most fun times we have here at the RWP, and this night will be no different. We've got a lot of categories to go through, and we're going to try to get through it fairly quickly. We have run quite long in years past. I'd like to avoid another marathon show unless
I
the necessity
think we can get through it a little faster this time around, but there's so many things to discuss. And also you folks out there, all the denizens of the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, the KOE Nation, and Big Buck and Empire, you all have so many fascinating things to say. Just like, Tantui 10 Man, that philosopher king, Tony Two Belts rides again.
Yes.
So this is true. Now, if I may, Tony, if I may be so presumptuous as to introduce the audience to the categories this year.
Yes, please.
So just so you can keep this before your mind. The Rookie of the Year, Wasted Talent, The Worst Wrestler, Best Male Match, Best Female Match, Best Tag Team Match, Best Male Wrestler, Best Female Wrestler, Best Tag Teams, Best Event, Feud of the Year, and Wrestle Shit of the Year. What is the shittiest thing to happen in wrestling this year? We will decide, folks.
There weren't zombies this year, so that's good.
No, this was not not a zombie year, thank God. And if there were, please nobody tell me now and ruin it for me.
I was about to say, I'm sure like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla probably did something along those lines.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
God, I mean, I suppose no spoiler, it wasn't, but upon thinking, that probably could have been our nominee for Wrestle Shit of the Year any year, just Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Yeah, pick a year, really. They're pretty good at it.
Tony, as the reigning, defending, Revolutionary Extreme Wrestling champion, I'm going to allow you to pick the first category.
All right, so let's go with an easy one, or kind of an offshoot one first. I'd like to just get one out of the way right away, because I'm actually kind of interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this. What was the event of the year?
If I can go ahead and just rip this Band-Aid off.
Please.
WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania. Number 2 wasn't even close. Steve Austin, Kevin Owens. It was WrestleMania.
I'm also going with WrestleMania. Obviously,
God.
this was a 2-night spectacle, and this is the first time since they switched to 2 nights that it actually lived up to the hype. We had a main event night 1 after a 19-year hiatus. Stone Cold Steve Austin has a match, a real match with Kevin Owens in Texas at WrestleMania. And then he was heavily involved in the next night when Vince McMahon had a 2 matches, actually, if you want to count it that way. WrestleMania was absolutely fantastic this year, finally having a full crowd for the first time since 2019. And it lived up to the 2-night hype this time around. They really, even though the promotion was not what I wanted it to be, the event itself actually lived up to the hype.
Yeah, like everything about it. I like. Now, granted, 2 nights is a little ridiculous.
I disagree.
Whoa!
I had it as number 2.
Wow.
I think you guys forget about some of the matches we saw on WrestleMania. I mean,
there was a lot of dog shit. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Sami Zayn versus the Jackass.
Yeah, the Knoxville thing, that was awful. That was just god awful. We didn't want to see Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar again, so that was kind of a disappointment right out of the gate before it even happened. Lashley versus Omos, that happened.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Chicken came prepared. It's like, oh, you forgot about Lashley. Well, again, Chicken. It's kind of like Steve Austin's stomps. It didn't matter that they kind of sucked. He was so over that people couldn't even see it.
Yeah.
When we got Austin back, we couldn't even see the almost Lashley anymore.
Now, The Miz teamed up with Logan Paul to fight the Mysterios.
That was fight. Yeah,
it was
Logan Paul. Fuck you.
That was a great match.
Oh God, I don't know.
He came down with that $6 million Pokemon card.
Yeah, I remember that. That was kind of funny. But then it wasn't it the Usos in Nakamura with Boogs? Isn't that the one where Boogs got injured like partway through?
Yeah, that one got cut about 5 minutes short, and that was actually going very well, surprisingly, until the injury. And it kind of we were all like, wait, that ended kind of abruptly, but then we knew why afterwards. So
yeah,
I can't.
So for those reasons, I gave it the second best. I had Clash at the Castle. It was only 5 matches, but they were all great. And it was the only time the entire year where anybody thought Roman Reigns might actually lose.
Like Tony over here. Like,
yeah.
I myself invested in it. Yes.
I was like, the moon is going to be discovered to be made of Blanton's bourbon before Drew McIntyre beats Roman at Clash of the Castle. I was like,
it was
no.
a lot closer than you want to admit.
Because
there was a lot of talk, and they almost pulled the trigger on it.
Almost happened.
But now we're in the middle.
At the last second, they decided not to split the titles up. And guess what? As we're heading into Royal Rumble, guess what they're talking about doing? Stripping Roman Reigns of the belt just so they can have both belts on both nights and not have.
Yeah, Tony. Sorry. Prepare yourself for the Roman Sammartino reign. Sorry.
You're already way off on that. It's never going to happen.
Roman Sammartino. It's happening, folks.
It's not
you are witnessing a historic run.
This is why this goes 3 hours every year.
Exactly.
Folks.
Yes, but folks,
I agree.
No,
though, Chicken.
Roman Reigns. This Royal Rumble will keep hope alive.
All right,
anyway,
Phil. So anyway,
Tony was agreeing with me there.
I agree. Clash of the Castle, top to bottom, was fantastic, and it didn't deserve to be because it was one of those over the seas shows. I don't know. For me, that main event was so fucking good. The rest of the card was awesome, but for me, I gotta stick with Mania just for the fact that they really did nail home the spectacle on this one, and it's been a while since Mania really held this high of regard.
If Steve Austin wasn't there, then it wouldn't have.
Stone Cold definitely puts it over the
top. Then the whole event sucked with that. Oh, sorry.
I like no. I honestly, other than the stupid matches and like you said, almost Lashley, like there were a lot of decent matches.
Yeah, but also, you know what WrestleMania didn't have that Clash of the Castles did? Drew McIntyre and Tyson Fury having themselves a duet.
I think that's what does it for me.
Yeah, they had themselves a little duet karaoke night.
Really fumbled the fuck out of that. They weren't supposed to show that.
Yeah, I think that was to keep the crowd from losing their shit. But
It was, but they
yeah,
weren't supposed to show it. They did. Yeah, that one left a
Yeah.
sour taste.
That
I'm
kind of
sticking
like
with
gave me
Mania.
the Yokozuna Lex Luger vibes, where Lex like celebrates like he won the world championship, even though he won by disqualification.
Yeah, it had
Yeah.
major Lex vibes.
So
We've got a
events-
2-1 vote on this, though, Chicken. I don't.
yep, no,
disagree
no,
with you.
it's fair. WrestleMania was the second greatest event of the year, so it
Honestly,
you know.
I'd have Clash at second.
regardless,
I'd debate.
last year was a pretty good year for WWE events. I mean,
There
not
was
so
some
much
good
The Office,
AEW.
but the events.
AEW had a couple of good events too. Like they didn't disappoint. It was overall it was a good year for pro wrestling in the major events.
Yeah, AEW though, like it
was too much.
Yeah, sometimes it's a marathon. Like they're just trying to
all of their
like,
events this year felt like Tony Khan treats all of his major 4 pay-per-views like their WrestleMania. Like I have to get everybody on.
He
this
really
show.
shouldn't.
They shove 4 people onto the 4 matches onto the pre-show, and then 12 matches onto the main card, and you could do just as much and get more over with the fans and give the fans more of what they want by doing half as much.
Yeah,
It's
and he
that
was
simple.
not only was he doing that many matches, but then we had these trios fucking shit going on. So you had like 6 people in the ring at one time, and like it wasn't even really a tag match, and
there was no flow. Everything,
Yeah.
every match that followed the match previous to it on an AEW show took you out of the moment, and it felt very discombobulated. That's what I mean. Like you can do so much more with less. Cut the matches in half, you get much more quality, and the fans aren't exhausted by the time the main event rolls around. Like you have to knock out an absolute banger of a main event to keep a crowd that invested after 4 5 hours.
I was about to say,
That's
you
why
got to
they
make a
cut
banger
WrestleMania
main
in
event
half.
just to cut down the amounts of yawns.
yeah.
Like, cause they've like, I remember it was literally Adam Cole versus Adam Page as one of the big main events after a CM Punk match. And like you even looked at me and said, we have already seen every last one of these moves tonight. We've seen that. We've seen that. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Somebody hits a tombstone. So it's like, we've seen that. So you kind of
you put too many people on the show, and you're going to run redundancy, and the risk goes from 0 to 100 real fast. We've got a spam comment. My God, I love it.
Hey,
thank you. Promote the
we're
shit
making
out
it.
of us, Matagen. Yeah.
We're making it, folks. The spam folks are getting to our comments. And before we move on to the next topic, gentlemen, what are you drinking tonight?
I'll go first. Right now, I got a mixed drink of Bullet and just some soda, but I'm going to jump over to a recent review that we just did. The Golden Sheaf. This is the port cask whiskey.
Nice.
That's what I'll be sipping on the rest of the evening.
Well done. T, how about yourself?
I've got a couple of really low bottles of scotch that I've basically just been putting off on finishing. So currently I've got the Macallan 15 triple cask, and I've also got just a little itty bitty left of Balvenie Caribbean cask 14 years. So
nice.
I hate to see either one go.
We got good reviews of both of those at KOE Nation, folks, so check them out. And me, I'm just working on this Heaven's Door store pick from Wine, Beer, and Spirits. I'm down to my last quarter of the bottle. And I figure, why not? Why not? And I got some of the finer stuff on display here. And also my Golden Sheaf Bourbon, William LaRue Weller, and a Dalmore. Because the other night I was describing how water is the backbone of any whiskey. And so I figured having a Dalmore would be handy. So we move on to the next category.
Yeah, Phil, why don't you pick with this one?
Okay, so we did something that's the best. Now, how about we go to something that's the worst?
Okay.
Let's go with wasted talent of the year.
Okay.
And Chicken, you were vexed on this. Were you able to come up with something?
Yeah, the one I picked, I'm not a big fan of picking this because it was really no fault of his own. But Big E,
it rarely is.
This was Big E's year to come back after he kind of got hosed last year. And due to a
wasted talent.
It is talent. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was-
wasted
he's a-
talent even. Now
Yeah.
the wasted
Oops.
talent would
Fuck
be
you
all
guys.
those falconeers that they haven't properly trimmed the talons.
Yeah, but no, I think we all expected to see a really awesome year from Big E, and to see him get injured, in the way he did and be out for God, I don't even know if we have a date when he's coming back yet, but
No,
but that was
a
a
neck
scary
injury
one.
that severe, it's impossible
Yeah,
to put a time frame on.
We didn't know if he could come back or if he will come back. But I mean, you could almost extend Big E's injury to all of the New Day because they've been wasted all fucking year as well. So
God,
I
that
can't
is
disagree with that at all. Like, I don't know if I'd say I expected Big E to have a breakthrough year. Like, I think them putting the belt on him was a kind of the same thing with Kofi. Like, it was saying thank you for giving us all that you've had your entire tenure, because all the New Day have given 110%.
I didn't think he was going to be in the I didn't think he was going to be like top tier title run, but I thought he would be in the picture with like the U.S. Championship or like Intercontinental. Like he would be in a title run, just not top tier.
He could have been one of those challengers that Roman Reigns ended up beating. They just didn't get that opportunity. It's unfortunate because that would have been good.
Nope. He got sacrificed to the pyre of Brock Lesnar. Quite a few
just
have.
like Kofi did.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go the other way with
strange piece of statistic. Brock Lesnar has defeated every Black World Champion in WWE history.
True.
Interesting.
And taking their time. Rock, Kofi, Big E, Bobby Lashley, and I'm forgetting one. But yeah, that's so interesting.
So, I'm going to go the other way and pick someone who it was a fault of their own, who was a wasted talent. 100% fault of their own. And I'm going to go with Bryan Danielson, who was actually very recently our Wrestler of the Year. This year, he didn't
That's a good pick.
Shit. Here's the thing. Bryan Danielson has had a lot of creative freedom since joining AEW. He's had some bangers, and he's even come within inches of winning the title. They should have pulled the fucking trigger. Just because you wanted to put the belt on Page doesn't mean you should have fucking given Danielson the win. That would have instantly legitimized the belt, but I digress. Danielson's been very open to losing cleanly to people he has no business losing cleanly to. Bryan Danielson essentially single-handedly offered to put people over and took all the shine off of himself. He means so little right now than he ever did. You look at Bryan Danielson when he debuted at AEW, and you look at him now. He opted to join a stable and just become another name in a stable that made absolutely no sense and did very little and is still doing very little. He's in a program with MJF now. Great. I can't wait to see that match. I'm excited for that. Could be match of the year. But he has written himself into obscurity by losing constantly. And when he does win, it's over people that he should beat very, very cleanly, very, very quickly. And it's always the same 5, 10, 15-minute, I've got to have a banger with this guy to get him over. No, you're getting yourself under. So not just Tony Khan, but also
no, he's not working with Eddie Kingston.
Bryan Danielson.
Jesus, that's how you get yourself under.
This is almost exclusively on
being
Danielson
a camera
himself.
shot with Eddie Kingston.
This is almost on Bryan Danielson himself, but I will blame Tony Khan as well. But
I was going to say Tony Khan's got to be a part to blame, but Danielson's like the epitome of WWE stars going to AEW to put over AEW stars.
Oh yeah, Danielson kind of knows that any match could potentially be his last one.
Yeah, so that's why you wouldn't want it to be against Ethan Page on Rampage. Like, give me a fucking break.
Now,
go out.
All right, guys, let me make my case here. The wasted talent first half of this year.
Shane McMahon.
Fuck you.
No, that would have been you could have made that case like several years ago in the early 2000s when he got pushed out of the company, maybe. But this is somebody that their year started off so well. And then it just ended so badly, like so incredibly badly. And this wrestler has so much potential, so much. And he was on this perfect trajectory, and it was kicked out from under him, all for politics and backstage shit and stuff that was no fault of his own. one of the greatest future wrestlers, and in my opinion, almost undoubtedly someday, if he can overcome the office hatred for him, a future WWE champion or Universal champion, Austin Theory. That is my wasted talent of the year. He started off with such good momentum, but basically because he was Vince's boy and Triple H wanted to seem like, look, I'm going to give Vince's boys a spanking and it's a new beginnings today. Austin Theory basically got his nuts cut off from behind in front of everybody on the fucking in the world. And like he went from on top of the world to being everybody's bitch overnight. And so I'm nominating Austin Theory.
Yeah,
Theory was my backup. Actually,
that's a good pick, except for the last few weeks, they've actually done a good job turning that around.
Because Vince is coming back.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vince. See? Look him some wins on TV. But
You might have something there, but no. It was really interesting just see how quickly they were to take what you just described and flip him. And I'm all in on it now. I love what we're seeing from Austin Theory over the last few weeks. What little bit I've seen of him, like I've been, let's more. I want more.
That was the first. That was the last thing that Vince, like, all right, Hunter, guess what? If you want to sell the company, you need my permission to legally do so for any of the broadcasting rights. I'm coming back as chairman. We're getting rid of these two people on the board. All three of us are on the board. Oh, and one more thing. Austin Theory goes over tonight. That was the last, and then hang up. The
thing with Theory, though, for me, like don't get me wrong, he was my second pick for this before Danielson slid up above him. But with Theory, he was getting the push. Yes, he was a pick from Vince, and Vince even was on screen with him. He at least did manage to win the U.S. title. He had the Money in the Bank briefcase. Granted, he wasted those things. He ended up winning the belt back. I mean, he did do things that garnered some merit, even though he was booked very, very weakly. He was made to look like the simpleton that gets his ass kicked, tries to take advantage of a situation, but comes up short, like with the Money in the Bank. But he was at least put in a prominent role. He had a lot of mainstream level match, like the triple threat with Lashley and Rollins was one of my most recent favorite matches on pay-per-view. So I can't say he was completely wasted, though he was really, 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 really wasted. More than he should have been, because he is a future world champion, 100%.
Now, curious, gentlemen, are either of you two, and we just lost T. Now, Chicken, this is the moment where one of us three has to move a little bit. Now, I'm tempted to move in your direction with Big E, but like when it's an injury and it's not that guy's fault, it's kind of hard for me to say that's wasted talent. That's a wasted opportunity. That's wasted momentum. And that's been the story of WWE this year. Anybody last year that seemed to be getting some momentum got hit with a big injury, whether it be Cody, whether it be Logan Paul, whether it be, just anybody, Big E.
True.
So to me, I have a hard time moving in Big E's direction for that. Now, Chicken, did me or Tony persuade you towards our direction?
I think I'm going to lean more towards Bryan Danielson. As I mentioned, Austin Theory, good chunk of the year was wasted, but it seems like they've turned that ship around in recent weeks. To where I don't think they're going to turn the ship around on Bryan Danielson.
No.
You know what? Like, I know I'm outvoted here, and don't get me wrong, my pick is still for this year, still Austin Theory.
Oh yeah, it was a coin flip for me at one point.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Tony, because Bryan Danielson is far more self-inflicted.
It is, and it's what's so frustrating, because even though he was not booked to win the world title, and he had a couple of good matches, really Hangman Page's two best matches in a long fucking time, and none have come close since. Even though he did that, he had control of his destiny, and he could have put himself, and he can agent matches, and he does agent his own matches. And what he agents right now is putting himself under. He puts himself so under that beating him this year is not going to mean jack shit. And that's the problem. Coming into this MJF feud, that's what really pisses me off, because Bryan Danielson should have had a ton of fucking shine on him. And
You're gonna hate this comparison.
Nothing right now.
Bryan Danielson now is like the Bray Wyatt of WWE like 3-4 years ago, where like it didn't matter win or lose, the character doesn't change. Exactly. And so unfortunately, like you said, it's going to take some rehabilitation to make because like you said, this guy's like doing jobs damn near on AEW Dark. Like it's like he needs to do some rehabilitation. Like you said, this is self-inflicted. He can age in good matches, but it's with people that it shouldn't take him 28 minutes to whip.
Yeah. And that's the frustrating part, because we had him as our wrestler of the year. He competed in 2 companies, WWE and AEW, and he had fucking bangers all year.
You know, I think mostly because he was our wrestler of the year, and we can't point to anything he's done this year that's of like huge note. I think this is, I mean, it's been a bad year for a lot of us, Bryan Danielson. I can certainly identify, but it's new year. It's a new day. So Bryan, I think you can do it. You can bring us some banger matches. And God, we didn't get him versus CM Punk.
Oh, that's going to be coming in a video I'll be dropping here when I finally have a chance to record it. The 10 matches that AEW didn't do when they had the fucking chance, and it's going to be scathing, folks. So like, share, subscribe to catch that video, because you're not going to want to miss that one.
All righty. So wasted talent of the year, Bryan Danielson for 2022. And Bryan Danielson, that comes from that hurts. That hurts all of us to make that.
Seen him live several times now, and he's as good on TV as he is in person.
We got to see Team Oh Hell No. We got to see Kane and Bryan Danielson
the Fiend in a fucking strap match.
Yeah, but like Tony, we got to see him and Kane tag team for basically the last time. That's where you're never going to see.
I would hope it's the last time. All right, Chicken. Why don't you pick a category this time?
Let's go with Feud of the year.
Okay, I like it.
Well,
I'll kick it off here. And I don't know if there's a single one, but I'd just say everything Seth Rollins did. Every feud he's had this year, he's put over the right people.
He's been very consistent.
He's been having killer matches, heel or face. The crowd is fucking all over him. Like there's nothing the guy can't do right now.
Is doing real like he's the one guy that made you believe, okay, he might get under Roman's skin so much he might actually fucking sneak this out the hair of his ass. Like he was the one guy that actually made, like, I knew it wasn't, but he made me believe. Right. Made me believe. And that is the beauty and the magic of wrestling. So yeah, Seth Rollins, great fucking wrestler with anybody. So that's an interesting pick.
Plug in Cody Rhodes. I mean, if you had to put a name with
Seth Rollins, and Cody's feud was great.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was the build. It was every match was different, and everything they did felt important. So yeah,
even the Rollins Riddle feud, as short as that was, it was still okay. It was still pretty damn good.
Yeah. You're right. Rollins had
that one actually for a minute, like when they started getting personal, is like, okay, nice. Yeah. It was that old fashioned pro wrestling saying of say what you will about wrestling. Those two guys are mad.
Yeah.
And like, what else you need other than that? So yeah, I'm going to have to agree that was a good one. That was a good one. But Tony, who do you nominate?
For me, it's not even close. It has to be this for me. It's MJF versus CM Punk, because nobody in the last decade has come this close to nailing every single piece of promo work, interaction they have had with their rival, every match that these two guys have done. Every promo got better and better and better and felt more and more real and more honest and felt raw. And by the time they'd actually get in the ring, MJF beating him twice technically in one match, the first time Punk loses since coming to AEW, just the way that they were both feeding off of each other, that classic heel work from MJF, who's just way younger than all of us, and that grizzled veteran baby face, amazing work of CM Punk doing exactly what he needed to do to get his partner over in the match. It was so fucking good. And then not ignoring side storylines all the while, because during all this, you had Wardlow, MJF teasing their dispute, and then it eventually culminates in Wardlow not helping MJF get the win by accident. Oh, sorry, the ring was in the other breast pocket of my jacket. Whoopsie me. I did a doozy. And Punk winning the title, even though he claims he didn't even want it to begin with, but he knew since Danielson didn't want to take the fucking thing, somebody had to get that damn belt over, and Punk was the guy to do it. But then he, of course, got injured. Things got held up short. We almost got to see MJF get his win back against Punk before all that chicanery happened. But for me, the two matches that these guys had, coupled with all of the work that they did in between and after, there wasn't anything that has felt more pro wrestling than that for me in a long, long time.
And can we say for any AEW fan out there, I get why they love Dean Ambrose.
I don't.
Well, who else was gonna pick up everything every time it fell apart this year?
I'll give you that. Ambrose, thank God it was him and not Jericho. I'll say
I was
that.
about to say,
like
Dean Ambrose, like, man, sometimes it's good to be the backup plan.
Yeah.
So,
Second string's not bad.
guys, like, it took me a long time to decide, because it was between two. And what's fascinating is neither of them technically took place in the ring, but they were far more consequential to this year than anything. And I was torn between CM Punk versus the Elite. So technically CM Punk and Ace Steel versus Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. And they're backstage.
Dog.
Yeah, you throw the dog in there too.
Wife.
But then I thought, I think Vince McMahon versus Nick Khan might also, but in the end, that feud didn't destroy the company. It's still going to probably be sold because of it.
Shares are up and Vince is back.
I know. Stocks are up 20% on the announcement that, because the way that any publicly traded company works is the owner of the company has to convince everybody in the world in the stock market that they are Willy Wonka. They're the one that just makes this shit all work. And Vince kind of proved he built such an efficient machine that it didn't need him. But when it came back, everyone's like, Willy Wonka's back. Yay. And so that's what the stock market did. And yeah, so Vince has played that Pied Piper game perfectly, because what a shock that a pro wrestler would be able to fool people about publicly traded value than anyone else. But I'm going to go with CM Punk versus the Elite, because that damn near destroyed the company and they still haven't recovered.
My one gripe with that, now granted, I will be, I mean, that's not going to be the last you're going to hear about that tonight. I will give you that spoiler. For me though, like, they didn't even sniff each other on television, like barely had like second glances at each other.
They did bite each other though.
Well, off television, yes. That's my only problem here, and it was a real feud. I get it. It would normally fit the bill for me, and it was the most important feud technically, but the guys never even had matches together, and they probably won't. I mean, Punk's kind of opened the door a little bit, you know.
And Punk might be coming back to AEW anyway.
That's what I mean. He's trying to open the door. He wants to do
Punk's
business.
going back to
Fucking
WWE.
don't. I hope he does. I hope
not.
At this point, I don't even care. I just fuck
Triple H will come out of retirement just to beat him one more time.
No, I want
could-
Punk
if
to
you
go
could
back to
get-
UFC to get knocked out again.
If I'll say this, if Punk can come back to AEW and Bucks and Omega can see past their own horse shit and do business, that would automatically make 2022's feud of the year Elite versus CM Punk for me. But since they never even had
Might as well
matches,
use the
barely
drama
even
for some
interacted,
views.
ugh.
I think Tony's onto something. It might be smart for him to go back to AEW. They use that real life drama to build a fucking feud for the next year.
So
Instead
all
of
right.
with Matt Hardy, Edge, and Lita.
Now, unfortunately, like, so Chicken, Tony has nominated CM Punk versus MJF. I have nominated CM Punk versus the Elite. One played out before
I hate
the
that
cameras.
both of you have CM Punk in this at all.
I know, and unfortunately, it's going to come down to you to decide, because Seth Rollins, just in general, I'm sorry, Chicken, that's just too broad. I can't co-sign that. And I think Tony would probably agree with me there. Am I off on that take?
If you just say Cody, I think the argument would be stronger. But I didn't disagree though. Seth Rollins had a great year.
Okay, I'll go with Cody because I am not gonna vote for anything to do with that jackass.
Okay, so
Wow.
Tony.
Wow.
I will not give CM Punk any love for
Now,
anything
Tony,
this year.
MJF was nice.
He put a scar in pro wrestling forever. That's like everybody's gonna remember that, good or bad. Like it's not a good scar. It's an ugly
Almost
one.
like it's the worst feud of 2020.
It's not a feud.
I mean, I mean,
it's when you take a feud too far and fucking ruin it.
A feud that's gone too far. Sounds like the feud of the year to me.
Okay,
give me some credit here. I'm doing my best.
You can try, Phil. I'm gonna ask you, what was your favorite Punk versus the Elite match?
Probably the one where the dog interfered.
Can you give me a link to that? I'd love to.
Well, no, it was a house show. It was a dark match too.
Yeah, so nobody could see it. Nobody saw it. It sold no buys. Nobody was in attendance. Got it.
But
just because Phil's being such a jerk, I'm going to go with Tony. Well, let's go MJF. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to say CM Punk. MJF deserves it.
Okay, fair.
The work MJF did with Punk is next level.
The work MJF did. Stop there.
There you go. I can't. Man, what is your problem with Punk?
He worked with Eddie Kingston, and he kind of sucked after that.
No. Here's the thing. I was excited to see him come back and see, hey, like this is great. When we started 2022, we're like, this is going to be a really fucking awesome year for pro wrestling. Me, a guy getting back into it after being gone for a decade. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is going to be great. CM Punk coming back. We're going to see the second like big AEW company come up and start feuding with WWE. We're going to see both of them have to get better. And then he shit the bed for AEW. And then WWE didn't have to do jack shit after that. All they had to do was coast the rest of the year, and they were top dog, getting 2 million to 1.5 million views fucking Friday and Saturday, or now, guys, every Friday and Monday.
I've got an idea, because like Chicken, I'm getting the idea that you're not the biggest fan of CM Punk's attitude. Generally, I'm getting that impression. Is.
Well, so Tony, he's not a good fighter. He's proven that. He's not that great of a. He's not that great of a wrestler.
Oh, he's a good wrestler.
Tony, I've come up with an idea. You'll love this. It's a tag team of CM Punk and Austin Aries, managed by Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Jesus Christ.
And it's called the Positive Locker Room Leaders.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like, just the three most fucking pissy, whiny, fucking miserable fucks in wrestling.
Say what you want, though. Listen to Dax Harwood's first podcast, and he really does reveal, like, CM Punk was putting in the work, trying to get over in the locker room, trying to help coach people up, trying to offer his wisdom, trying to be their friend, trying to be.
That's what we thought. Yeah.
No,
and then Adam Page is like, I don't need advice.
There's a problem, though. There's a small section of AEW that doesn't want that and actually resents it, and that's the section that he got in a fight with. Basically, Punk, the Bucks, Adam Page, and a few others that are buddied up to him. Here's the thing: if that weren't a factor, this wouldn't even be a discussion right now, because Punk will actually give great advice. He will be a locker room leader if you let him. He will be a mentor if you let him. He does have a bit of a prima donna attitude, though. That's never been in dispute. I can't disagree with that.
Not a WWE former world champion. Now, funny enough, there's rumors that Chris Jericho was kind of like doing you can't let Punk talk to you like that. Go. Like, you can't. I mean, you got to get back. Like he said, if you got a problem, come talk to me. I mean, guys, you're going to look like a bitch if you don't. And so apparently Chris Jericho knew how to wind everybody up like a fucking top.
Chris Jericho has become Hulk Hogan. And I mean that in all the political sense of the word.
Wow. I was about to say Chris Jericho.
I was going, but okay.
Thank you.
It's true. It's 100% true.
I was like, Chris Jericho kind of sounds like me at like 17 years old, but
nice.
No, Chris Jericho has become what Hulk Hogan was in backstage WCW.
Oh boy. All righty. Well, guys, MJF versus Punk, feud of the year, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. You did it again. So, Tony, champ, as the
Let's go-
Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, I think you should select the next category.
Let's go with the female match of the year.
I was thinking the same thing, and if I may just rip the Band-Aid off, I would be
By all
shocked
means.
if this isn't the consensus pick of Becky versus Bianca at WrestleMania 38.
Yeah, that was mine too.
That was yours too, wasn't it?
Okay. That was like my second or third. The only one I had above that was Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair versus Asuka at Hell in a Cell.
That was a good one,
Yeah, that was.
I
but
think it
it's
was
not
better.
Mania.
I think it was better than their Mania match from top to bottom, start to finish.
I thought that was clunky with Asuka though. I remember specifically that.
Hang
one,
on. Now,
just the
in
timing
typical
was off.
pro wrestling fashion, while we discuss the female match of the year, I need to take a restroom break. So, I'll be right back.
Fair enough. No, all this year, like I was a fan of a lot of things Asuka did this year, but whenever she was with Becky, or not even just Becky, when she was in the main title picture, it's like she was trying not to choke. Her timing was always off in all the big matches. She would do great in all the other shit on Monday or whatever on all the smaller shows. Or if she didn't have like a consequential match in a a premium live event, but the second she was on the big stage on the biggest matches, I just felt like her timing was always off, and that one was a good match. It got good as it went on, but I thought that one still started off clunky.
I watched some of the highlights of that one back, and I remember doing the review, I think, with you when you said that, and I'm like, I could really only remember like two main spots when it was Asuka involved each time, but they all recovered very well, and for me, it was like match flow. And I thought overall the match flow of the Hell in a Cell match was just a little bit cleaner than that WrestleMania match. But like I said, I think I had the WrestleMania match was my
The
second
WrestleMania
pick
match
anyway.
was big because it was Bianca getting her revenge for
Yeah. The story was there, the stage
Yeah.
was there, the lights, the spectacle, and all that. Yeah, I can't disagree. So I honestly, it was kind of a toss up between the two. I preferred the Hell in a Cell match, at Hell in a Cell, the triple threat, a little bit more than the singles match, but I will concede. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to agree with you guys
Yeah.
because
While I
it
was
was
at
a
the
stage.
while I was at the bathroom, I stopped at the merch stand.
Oh, how is it?
Well, it's great. I got myself a belt while I was at the merch stand. So, why not? I figured, why not? I've always wanted one, so I got me one. So there we go. Female match of the year. It was a good year for Becky. Let's just put it that way. She had
I'd say it was a better year for Bianca, considering
Yeah.
how last year because WrestleMania last year she wins the belt and then they essentially just dropped the ball with her. It's like they didn't know what to do with her once they had her as champ, and then they had Becky come in and beat her flat. And then since then at SummerSlam, it's like they've been trying to figure out how to fix their own
flat on
fuck
a
up.
plate of piss on Broadway.
And they
So,
managed to do that, like you guys said, at WrestleMania 38. So I will agree that would probably had more importance, it had more impact, and it had a bigger stage for sure. Even though I preferred the triple threat a little bit more myself, this one probably means more. In the
that wasn't that Asuka coming back from an injury?
Yeah, this was shortly after. So
Okay.
any clunkiness can be attributed to that.
Well, no, it wasn't clunky. I just remember like that was one of the big deals of the matches. Hey, Asuka's finally back.
Yeah.
Now, is it all right if I pick the next category?
By all means.
Let's just go ahead and who is the let's see. Starting to get there. We got the feud, the event. Since we did best female match, let's do the best female wrestler of the year. So, since I picked this category, I'm going to go ahead and tear the Band-Aid off. She's had the best year of consistent booking. She ages like fine wine. Every time you see her, she looks finer than she did the day before. And WWE wants her bad. And I'm talking about Jade Cargill, the undefeated, the female Goldberg, Jade Cargill. Yes.
I really like that pick. And I had a 50-50 split and kind of did a coin flip, and I went with Bianca. Tony,
I
it's going to be up to you because I don't know who else should be on this list.
I had 40% in my own voting. I had 40% for Jade Cargill and 60% for Bianca Belair. And I only picked Bianca. The booking wise, it's like if you gave Bianca Belair Jade Cargill's booking, forget about it. If you gave Bianca Belair Jade Cargill's swagger, forget about it. If you could mold those two together, you are looking at like possibly the greatest female wrestler.
If you could give any woman in God's creation Jade Cargill's look, you got $1 million proposition right there. And that's why I'm saying Jade Cargill.
But for me, it's match quality right now. Like next year, I think Jade Cargill's probably going to be the consensus. I really do. But for this year, for 2022, we just talked about it. Bianca Belair had that Mania match. She's had 2 big Mania matches, title wins, mind you, in a row. Plus, I was talking about a triple threat match that,
and she can throw 3 women around without a problem anytime. And yeah, like she's like the strongest.
Let's not talk about War Games right now, dude. And even her, even Bianca got a lot of the stink off of her that was in the stink of the women's War Game match. Like she avoided a lot of it. I think overall, like granted,
War Games was like the worst.
Jade Cargill's Goldberg run, the booking there, it's perfect. Well, the undefeated streak is perfect. Some of the things that they're doing to get her that undefeated streak are definitely
Bianca ain't undefeated.
But I think work rate right now. It comes down to work rate between these two for me. And it's not quite there yet for Jade, though she is so much closer than some people want to admit.
Chicken came back from the merch stand too.
I couldn't be the only one without.
Yep. Now, Tony's the only recognized champion at the moment. I mean, I'm the KOE champion at the moment, but yes, we got to show off our belts at the year-end review. So basically, Tony, you were 60-40 in favor. So Jade loses by 10% is basically
close.
What you're telling me.
I honestly, I'm telling you right now, she's my early pick for next year. And actually, this is a good time to mention, I'll be doing this again this year, Phil. Do you remember last year? Do you recognize this?
Oh God, damn!
This is the envelope that I filled
prediction.
out for my predictions for the winners of 2022, and we will be opening that here.
Oh
dear God,
that's right. I wrote KOE so I would know it was me that signed it and sealed it.
And I'll tell you now, spoiler alert: my envelope for the next in a year is going to have Jade Cargill for Female of the Year. So. Yeah, I really like her chance.
0% chance I remember that though. Sorry, too.
That's fine. It's on video, Phil. Yeah, chickens. Picture.
All right.
No, I'm looking at my next event list.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Like you don't have to take a picture. This is being recorded.
So, Chicken, what do you got for the next category, sir?
Please.
Let's go. Let's take it down a notch here and let's bitch about some stuff. Let's go with Wrestle Shit of the Year.
Oh, baby. Coming in.
Who's going first?
All right, let me get the graphic pulled up.
Chicken, it's your category. You pick who goes first.
I'm gonna go with Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi.
Oh, damn! Coming in hot and heavy here, man. Like
Chicken. That match made no sense. It should never have happened, and it sucked thoroughly, through and through. Everything about it was fucking awful.
You could have just stopped 2 words into that sentence.
Yeah. True.
My pick is Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. Yeah.
Ronda's had a terrible year since coming back on it. Like coming back at the she's been so uninterested.
That Shotzi one was specifically terrible.
And Shotzi's terrible. And yeah, everything about that was fucking awful. I hated that match so much. But there was one Ronda match I hated more, and it was actually my second runner-up pick for Wrestle Shit of the Year, and that was Ronda versus Liv. That one was
pretty bad.
That one was fucking mind-numbingly insulting to the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought nothing could possibly top Ronda versus Shotzi, but Ronda versus Liv, that Extreme Rules match was
pretty bad.
Fucking bad.
Do you suppose like Ronda's doing this as like a rib at this point to see how bad she can make the match, just to like pop the girls in back? Like I could almost see that at this point, but
That
guys.
was my backup pick, though.
Oh, okay.
Bill, go ahead and give us your pick, and then I will reveal what I am picking as my wrestler.
My pick for the wrestle shit of the year, the worst thing to happen in wrestling this year, even though there's a million reasons
CM
you'd
Punk.
want to say no, you know I'm absolutely right. Vince McMahon's investigation into sexual misconduct allegations that resulted in over $15 million in payout that resulted in his eventual removal from the board. Sure, he's coming back now, but that
He
didn't
is
happen
back
in
now.
2022.
Yeah,
that
that
happened in
stain's there.
2023. So he was removed from the board for sexual misconduct allegations, a stain on the entire business. One of the most just shuffle fuck. Stephanie was gone, then she was running the company. Triple H was gone, then he was running the company. William Regal was gone, now he's vice president of the company. So, folks, the 2022 Wrestle Shit of the Year is undoubtedly, undisputedly, the Vince McMahon sexual misconduct investigation and allegations. So Vince McMahon is my nominee for Wrestle Shit of the Year. Changed my mind.
I have one counter to this, and that would be that since Vince McMahon was forcibly removed from the company, forced into retirement, it was right about the time AEW basically started dropping the ball that had been handed to them for the better part of a year.
Yeah, that was pretty
Really,
sad.
really hard. And right about the time that Vince was forcibly removed into retirement, that's when people who were removed from WWE started coming back to WWE. That's when interest in WWE started coming back. That's when WWE's product on television started to improve. Once Vince McMahon was removed from creative control, WWE's product has vastly gotten better on a week-to-week basis. Now, don't get me wrong. Everything that Vince McMahon did, it's despicable, and we knew this, and we knew something was up for a long time, and we probably just danced around and ignored it for a long time. But having it all come back out to light, yeah, is just an ugly reminder that Vince is a horny old bastard businessman on the biggest stage, and it's not forgivable. But guess what? I know it's not. I know it's not qualifiable since he came back in 2023, but it was less than 6 months, and he came back because he could. And yeah, it might be to get the sale, whatever. But the lasting impact of the scandal of Vince, it's going to be a complete afterthought once it's all sold. And the product itself, it got better once Vince left.
The stock.
So what's your wrestle shit?
The stock market disagrees, though. So I mean, I'm
stock
sorry.
Market's gone up since Vince.
Since he's returned, it's gone up 20% since he announced his return. But no, dude, this sexual misconduct, this is probably the 5th worst stain on pro wrestling. It's up there with the steroid trial and everything else, because it was the one thing that actually took down Vince McMahon. We thought he was going to be the dragon that only time itself would eventually slay. And no, the modern era of political correctness even got Vince McMahon. The modern era and our new modern standards got him too. So that's why
those drinking at home, Tony's being interrupted by his child, I'm pretty sure. So cheers.
No, I'm still here, but yeah, I'll.
What's your wrestle shit though? You told us why Vince McMahon's not.
I think I know what it is.
So my pick for wrestle shit of the year, without question, the most damaging, stupid, completely avoidable, and fucking dumb thing to happen in 2022 for me is 100% CM Punk versus the Elite. Because not only did it ruin a chance to do major fucking business,
that was my number 2,
and it ruined the legacy of CM Punk that he could have come back and really rode off into the sunset by doing something great with AEW. It tarnished that. That's on him. The Elite and Omega and Adam Page, the way that they've handled themselves as top tier of the company behind the scenes, the way they've handled themselves in the booking, the way they've handled themselves with personnel, it's fucking despicable. These guys suck at their job And I'm not talking about the wrestling side, even though I'm not a fan of them in that regard either. But this was something that was avoidable, and it ruined so many potential things. It basically made AEW look like a fucking joke. It's ruined everything Tony Khan has built. And then in the midst of that, you've got Jericho basically becoming Hulk Hogan and trying to take this thing over from the inside. So this is the worst thing to happen for me in 2022.
Sounds like that would have been like, the feud of 2022, but whatever. I'm over it. Not that I hold a grudge on it or nothing, but
not at all.
So Chicken, Tony's not here.
I'm okay. So I'll put it this way: I'm not going to the McMahon route. I know Ronda was a huge shit this year, and I do kind of agree with Tony's pick. As much as like the McMahon thing was pretty bad, but things did get better. So
but that's with the benefit of hindsight here in 2023.
I'm gonna leave it to you, sir, to make the call on who's the winner of this one.
Well, I need to persuade you to either go with CM Punk or with Vince McMahon. And I'm sorry, dude, you're going with the hindsight of knowing what happened in 2023, and you really can't do that.
I'm going with the timeline that's in place of 365 days. So,
well, no, because there was some early events in January. Actually, last year was day one. Remember? So, so we kind of had to start at January 1 from last year, because that was Nick Khan's big hoopla. We're gonna have WWE day one, and he was gonna basically, that was his planting the flag of you're about to get going. Bye bye, Vince. And then Vince McMahon basically knew the sexual misconduct allegations were coming when he booked himself at WrestleMania.
And then he came out several times after it was announced, and then he came out on Raw and SmackDown several times just to wave at the crowd and introduce the night.
And basically, look at me. I'm the one that brings this all to you.
It was so creepy. It was so.
So how is that not the Wrestle shit of the year?
Just think of all the great matches that we could have had between CM Punk and Kenny Omega. Think of all the great matches we could have had between the Bucks and Omega versus CM Punk and FTR. Think of all the great things that we could have done.
With Austin Theory, had Vince not had to go,
Phil, Tony, and I are not going to concede to the McMahon thing, so you might as well pick one of ours.
So let's see, between Ronda Rousey doing some of the worst grappling we've seen in a while, she started with the best debut in wrestling history, and now, or
tired.
You know what? This is my revenge for Feud of the Week. Or Feud of the Year. Fuck you. CM Punk versus the Elite. Yeah. So yeah, there we go.
I think that's a fair one.
Not that I'm bitter about that or nothing.
Not at all.
So yeah, CM Punk versus the Elite. Wrestle shit of the year.
No business out of it. No matches took place.
And it meant nothing.
Just everybody being crybaby.
Yeah. And it could possibly have meant nothing. It could have been just a huge waste of time. If Punk does return to AEW, that means that whole thing was a huge waste of time, a huge waste of pay-per-view matches, a huge waste of storyline. It was bullshit. It was dumb, and it should never happen. And then if he comes back, it's almost like, hey guys, should we pick up where we left off and try to make things right? It's like, I kind of hope it does happen
right now. That's what's happening right now. Punk,
well, because
Punk, and this speaks volumes to Punk because he should be fine. Don't get me wrong, Tony Khan, if he wants to stay,
if you heard that music hit, everybody would pop though.
They're going to back to AEW, and he can do business, and he's willing to. He said this because he knows the score. Even if he hates a fucking person's guts, he can still go through with the goddamn match if he knows it's going to do business, and that's what it's going to do. Kenny Omega and the Bucks, they can't fucking do that because they're fucking assholes when it comes to booking, and they're not going to put over somebody else for a second. Punk's probably going to lose that match if by chance it were to ever fucking happen, because they're not going to be willing to do the job, one. And two, the booking of the fucking from the Elite, we'll get into that later as well. But
Tony, the reason that Punk versus Omega never happened is the exact same reason that Hogan versus Austin never happened. That's because Hogan knew he couldn't position himself in a way where he'd walk away with the win, and Kenny knew he couldn't position himself in a way where he knew he couldn't walk away with the win.
I think Punk would have gladly lost that match. No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
Maybe before the bad feelings started setting in.
I think he'll still lose the match.
Now, if he comes back, I think Punk's going to make Kenny do the job, whether it's good for business or not. Like,
I just. So. If
we
that
will
match
see.
happens in 2023, I would pick Omega still.
If I was Punk, I would just be, unsafe work environment. How about you just buy me out of my contract and I just toddle along in my merry way? And I think the no compete clause is the only holdup to all of that. And, it's like, hey, I was assaulted at the workplace while I was injured. I had people biting and so I think that, if I was Punk, I would just say, how about you just buy me out of my contract and I'll just toddle on to my merry way. Or I can go take bumps for another few more years. Yeah, I think.
From what I understand, the buyout they're trying to do with no compete clause, and he refuses to accept that. So
because he wants to go to WWE.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Yep. Yeah. So Punk versus Elite, Wrestle shit of the year. I'll let you fans decide, but really it was Vince McMahon. But all right, whatever. Not that I'm bitter about this or nothing.
Tony, what's our next category?
All right, so let's
next year I'm bringing this shit up at the next year. Like, even though last year was goddamn Vince McMahon, you fucking assholes.
Let's go with one that we haven't really thought too much about, probably up until this point. Let's go with Rookie of the Year.
Logan Paul.
Yeah, it's Logan Paul.
I was gonna go with Braun Breaker, but
no,
y'all right. It's Logan Paul. That kid's
for me, Braun Breaker was the year before. If you were gonna pick him for Rookie of the Year,
that's fair. I mean, I'm just going off the fact that he became NXT champion. He's
right. He had a better year in 2022 for sure. But for me, it came down to Logan Paul or Hook. Hook had a good year.
Hook had a damn good year.
Logan Paul had 3 matches. One, him and The Miz versus the Mysterios. Great tag match at WrestleMania. His second match versus The Miz. Really damn good match.
That was a really good match. Yeah.
Really great match. But the best match he's had, Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns.
Which was incredible.
Was fucking amazing.
Stole the show.
100% one of my favorite matches this year, and it's not even just the fact that he was able to do that 3 matches into his tenure. The fact that Logan Paul knows more instinctively, psychology and athletic wise about pro wrestling, real pro wrestling, than 90% of the pro wrestlers in the business today should speak volumes to how good his 3 matches were in 2022. Logan Paul by a fucking landslide.
Now, when he grabbed the phone, jumped off, did the splash. That was incredible. Fucking classic.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was an amazing piece of business.
So the kid's got tremendous potential. Now, when it comes to Hook, it does bear mentioning. Like I've always said, I'm no judge of male beauty. I'm not very good at judging what's a handsome man and what's not. So there was a 1.5-minute video on YouTube that was just the best of Hook's debut. Sure. And I showed this to some of the varying women in my life, to 3 different women in my life, specifically. It's like, okay, is this considered a handsome man? And all 3 of them were like, yes, that's a very good looking young man right there. And so, Hook has the fucking look in spades.
And so the athleticism, but a strange chemistry that you're not used to seeing. He's got a different vibe than most wrestlers.
First of all, none of us can believe that came from Taz.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah,
he's got to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's that. Yeah. Jesus, wait, that came from Taz. That short, stocky little thing that tried to impersonate the Tasmanian Devil.
Yeah, until he gets in the ring and starts wrestling, you wouldn't even remotely see the resemblance. But once he actually starts wrestling, I can see the same.
The resemblance is here. And that's it.
Yeah.
The nose and the eyes and a little bit of the eyebrow ridge. That's it. That's the only. We all got to everybody take a drink.
Another drink.
It's a widow kiddo.
It's like, take
I
a
was
hike, kid.
Get on out here. Yeah. So, yeah, that one was pretty unanimous. Logan Paul. You're right. Like I like my pick for Braun Breaker, but yeah, Logan with way less matches, way less experience,
Way more
way
impressive.
bigger impact.
Oh god,
mean,
the stage that he has gotten to perform on this year in 3 matches without doing any dark matches.
I was about to say,
It's insane. When has anybody ever had that good of a year?
Even Bad Bunny had to do more shit, didn't he?
Yeah.
yeah. Now
But
I
he
gotta
doesn't look
say,
anywhere nearly as physically as imposing. Logan Paul looks like he fucking belongs.
and I had to concede my point because I realized, oh yeah, how many main event show stealers with Roman Reigns has Braun Breaker had? Oh, that's right, goose eggs.
None
So,
yet.
Yeah,
None yet.
yeah.
And how
yeah.
many unsuccessful NFT scams has Braun Breaker? Sorry.
Good point. Good point.
Nice. Hey,
I'm sorry, I had
come
to
on,
throw that
chicken.
one in there.
I mean,
it's a big deal. CoffeeZilla just took Logan Paul down like a week ago. So
don't blame people for at the end of this NFT scam, figuring out that it was a scam. I mean, it was easy to figure out at the end, the middle, and the beginning. But yes, I mean, at least folks eventually.
Yeah.
So, all right.
You can download a game on your phone that makes money and you hatch eggs.
Rookie
It
of
sounds
the
like
year.
not a scam at all.
So let's go with worst wrestler of the year.
Okay.
I think
all
you know
right.
where I'm at on this.
I've got an interesting pick, but I'm gonna let you guys
Okay.
go first.
Go ahead, chicken.
Rhonda.
Wow, just gonna say it.
She's bad, but she's not as bad as my pick. Go ahead.
For me, Rhonda's up there, unfortunately. When she doesn't have the dance partner, like all of her worst qualities come through tenfold.
When has she had a good dance partner?
When she had Kurt Angle, Triple
Charlotte,
H, and Stephanie
Becky,
McMahon
Triple H, Stephanie, and Kurt
Yeah,
Angle.
basically
I meant like this year.
guiding her
This
by the
year,
hand.
no, she really hasn't. Charlotte. No, I guess that was technically this year.
Even that wasn't that good.
So my pick for
Unfortunately, the
worst wrestler
Shotzi
of the year,
Blackheart match is about her best match this year or last year.
it was either going to be Omos or
Mm.
Shotzi Blackheart. And I'm saying Shotzi Blackheart because the match with
Shotzi's
Ronda
terrible.
was so fucking bad. Everything about it, the wrestling, the promo work, the build, the
All of it.
fallout. But not just that. Everything Shotzi has done this year has been absolute and utter.
Isn't it
dog
Rhonda's responsibility to make it look good with Shotzi?
shit.
And the fact that she
Well,
couldn't, is that on Rhonda or is that on Shotzi?
Yes, the fucking answer is yes. They were both trying to do shit that neither one of them had any business trying to do because they didn't know how to do it. And if you remember back to Money in the Bank. There were at least 5 fucking times during that match that Shotzi Blackheart made that match come to a screeching fucking halt because she was trying to get way too cute with the fucking weaponry for no goddamn reason whatsoever than, I'm going to do a highlight move. She has got that modern era pro wrestler mind think and has no capability of seeing any of it through. Her psychology is shit. Her in the ring skill is shit. And just being on a stage, she freezes up like a fucking deer in headlights. She is, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst wrestler of 2022, in my opinion. And I've never seen the luster on her that so many people saw in NXT.
I got a worse one. Sorry. And this is one you're going to be like, damn it. You're right. You're right. This is one that one of you is going to have to concede and
Ric
change
Flair.
your vote for my. Nope. Worse. The worst wrestler of this year. The worst person to even be slightly associated with the wrestling business in this year. The worst wrestler of 2022 by far, and one of the worst people of 2022 by far. AOL's 1996 most downloaded woman of the year, Tammy Lynn Sitch Sunny. Because guess what? Rhonda might be bad in the ring. Shotzi might be shit. Almost might be basically immobile. But ain't none of them killed nobody last year. Tammy can claim that title. So sorry, fuck you. My nominee
two
for worst
arguments
wrestler of the
there.
year is Sunny, Tammy Lynn Sitch, because she actually killed a motherfucker last year. And I'm sorry, that's a pretty good point. Change my mind. The coffee mug. Change my mind.
First and foremost, 3 of your picks so far have not technically been something that happened in the ring. I just wanted to get that out there. 2, God damn it, Phil, she was a valet manager, not a wrestler. And the few times she did wrestle, fucking like 25 years ago, and it sucked. And 3, dude, she's not even like hasn't done shit in the wrestling business for the last few years.
No, she's actually done some independent dates and shit like that in the last few years. Yeah,
in 2022 for who?
I'd have to look it up, but she's still the worst wrestler of the year. Sorry. I mean, you can try and say she didn't throw a wrist lock in the ring within the calendar year. She's still the worst fucking person in the wrestling industry.
Okay,
bar none. The worst wrestler, bar none.
Chicken,
how am I wrong here? How am I wrong? Ronda might suck, but she didn't kill nobody.
Anyway, Ronda's worse.
No, Tammy Lynn Sitch didn't throw a fucking rest move on anybody in a ring.
Okay, hold on. She didn't even mean to kill anybody. She got into an accident, right?
Because she was shit-faced drunk for the 900th time. She's had
and
like 9
a suspended license, drunk driving. Like, yeah,
she is one of. She may not be the worst wrestler of the year because she didn't wrestle in 2022, but she's one of the worst human beings of the year. I would gladly agree with that.
Okay.
So so there you go. Tony changed his vote.
I didn't change my vote.
Worst of the year. There we go.
Shotzi's way worse than Sunny. I think Sunny could get.
Well, I'm not moving on Sunny.
I think Sunny
could
have a better match in 2023 than Shotzi could have.
That's
okay. So anyway, Phil, would you like to make your pick between Shotzi?
No, I'm not moving. It's one of you two is going to have to move.
No. Sunny didn't have a match. She hasn't had a match in over.
She did kill somebody though.
We're not voting on who was the worst person that killed somebody this year.
Worst wrestler of the year. That's the worst. She didn't wrestle. That's the worst to me.
She wrestle. She's been.
I'm not budging.
It's kind of like the movie Orgasmo. Well, that's pretty naughty.
I picked Ronda.
Boom, Ronda wins it.
Jesus Christ. No. Sunny might have been the worst wrestling personality of the year who killed somebody.
And folks, this is actually how legislation gets made in the House and Senate.
Oh, it's not tag team matches.
This is actually how it works, as much as I hate to say.
I refuse to go to that side. I'll fucking go this way.
I mean, just because Ronda was involved with some of Shotzi's absolute worst, yeah, I'll go with Ronda because she's made nobody look good. Every match she's had has been bad.
Trey with the cops had to wrestle the bottle and wheel away from her.
Yeah, well, there was no referee present. It was an unsanctioned match.
Yeah, totally unsanctioned.
Well, I mean, so is most of Moxley's matches.
As was Punk versus the Elite. God damn it, Phil. Start picking things that actually qualify. You fucking asshole.
All right. The best wrestler of the year, the WWE stock move in September. Like,
God damn it.
Like, no. All right. So all
Phil's nominations are like tongue-in-cheek jokes. You're fucking asshole.
I think we need to do tag team match.
Yeah, we're gonna do tag team
because I know
match.
Phil didn't watch these. Because I think I know what Tony's gonna pick, and I think I know what I'm gonna pick.
No, I actually watched this one on YouTube not too terribly long ago, actually, over the holiday season. And my pick is, Tony, you're finally gonna like one of my picks.
Oh, thank Christ.
It's going to be the Briscoes versus FTR tag team dog collar match that they just did in December.
Okay.
To me, that's like what I imagine if you could bring Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard just back and just pop them into a ring now.
Yes.
And then have them wrestle another Arn Anderson and another Tully Blanchard, but with more furry hair on their heads.
Okay.
And then put dog collars on them. That would be the kind of match. Like, so yeah, it was one where it just held my attention, and I just was able to kind of chill out, relax, drink a dram of William LaRue Weller here, and just enjoy the match. Like, my kiddo was pacing around listening to stuff on her earphones. I was on my laptop here watching it and had a good time. So, yeah, that was definitely a worthwhile match to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm having a hard time thinking of a tag team match that stood out more in my mind. Like I'm sure like recency bias has something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But I really struggled to like comb over my mind of what's one individual tag team match that stood out to me more, and I had a very hard time picking out one that didn't involve the Usos. You know what
I
I mean?
will say
But,
this before I let Chicken say anything. 2022 overall for tag team wrestling was really very lopsided in terms of quality.
AEW was great for tag matches.
Oh yeah.
If you look in like
Well,
One
they
Direction.
have the best tag teams. They
Yeah,
didn't always put on the best matches.
Chicken, I'm going to let you go next before I make
Swerve in Our Glory had a pretty good match earlier this year.
Yeah, they did. I'm gonna go FTR and Briscoes as well, but it's gonna be the one from Ring of Honor in July.
Was that the second or the first? God, I can't remember.
I think that's
pretty
the
sure
second
that was
one.
the second one this
Because
year.
I think the first one was the end of last year.
Briscoes 2 was July. Yep. So
Yeah,
you're
'cause I
going
think-
with FTR Briscoes 2.
Because wasn't Briscoe's one about this time last year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was
early
December.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it
like
was-
really
it was-
early. Or it
I
was
think it was
like, yeah,
December 2021. I looked it up
Nope.
because that one was a contender for me as well. But yeah, that one was the year prior.
No, it would have been. It was April. April was one.
okay.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Let me see. Let's go.
The Briscoes.
And then July was the second one. April, July, and then December. April, July, December. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, to me there might be some recency bias for me, but I'm going with Briscoe's FTR in December for their double dog collar match. It was just fun to watch.
And
It was
Chicken,
just
you're going with the second one, which was the rematch after FTR beat them for the ROH titles.
Yep.
Okay, before I give you my pick, I'm going to give you some runner-ups. Hear me out. Swerve and Our Glory versus the Acclaimed, where
Great match.
the title should have changed hands on the pay-per-view.
yeah, not the one where it did.
Not the one where it did, because that match sucked. The one where it should have, where the titles didn't change hand. The crowd was only that hot one more time that year, and it was Drew versus Roman at Clash at the Castle. The crowd was so fucking amped up, and they actually held everybody's attention, and they did such a good job feeding off each other, and the false finishes actually meant something. That was a great fucking match.
Do you suppose Keith Lee and Adam Cole are happy they didn't get out of their contracts right now?
Moving along. FTR versus the Bucks 2. This is hands down, for me, the best Bucks match I've ever seen. Their first match, it was pretty good. The rematch on Dynamite, this was an actual tag team match. The Bucks actually succumbed to real tag team wrestling. They played psychology, hot tags, fucking establishing the rules and obeying them. It was a real tag team match. It was a great match. The Bucks' best match ever. And then the Usos versus Street Profits at Money in the Bank. Not the rematch. The rematch was very underwhelming. The first one, well overperformed. This one was fantastic, and it was probably my...
But enough about Montez Ford.
It was one of... Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that was one of my favorite matches, tag team matches of the year, if not one of my favorite matches of the year. But my ultimate pick for tag team match of the year has got to be the Briscoes versus FTR 1. So that means that we're kind of at a standstill here, folks, but I'm going to allow it for this because that would mean that the tag team match
doesn't matter. It's FTR's versus Briscoes.
FTR versus the Briscoes, the trilogy. There's no
That's fair.
There's nothing even remotely close that has touched tag team wrestling in terms of real wrestling
I
psychology.
could maybe be swayed to the match in July, but let's just keep it as is.
What about Briscoe's
WWE.
versus what was it, Aussie Open? That was a really good one too.
I'm going to get to some of FTR's
Didn't
accomplishments.
FTR
later
take
on.
on the Aussie Open too?
Yes, they did.
That's
And
what
that
I was
was
talking
That
about.
was, no, I thought you said the Briscoes took on
He
Aussie
did.
Open.
But he
I
meant
might have.
FTR.
I meant
Which
FTR.
I'd like to see that too.
I just hope that the TBS higher ups can get over whatever hump bullshit they have, and I think that's a cover up anyway because the Elite doesn't want the Briscoes on TV because, well, then that might not mean that they go down another fucking peg.
How
because
long
the
was
Briscoes are
Mike
one of the best
Tyson?
tag teams.
How long was Mike Tyson in prison? They let him in AEW.
Exactly.
Like that's like there's been worse folks like that. They had the one guy cutting up Chris Jericho or no
Yep.
Dean Ambrose with
There's
the
been way
fucking
worse
pizza
people.
guy, the bank addicted drug robber. So yeah, like you've had worse people on your show. So the Briscoes trilogy. That's
It
fair.
was so
I like it.
you can't look at another tag team match like these guys have been wanting to do this series of matches for a long time, and kudos to Tony Khan for at least giving them a platform. Granted, it was on the fucking C show Ring of Honor. This should have been, if they would have put this on AEW pay-per-view, this would have made their year in pay-per-view. But no, they threw this stuff away.
These matches were so unpromoted. All four of these men could have been in the witness protection program and still been safe.
And the worst part, the dog collar match, they didn't announce that until the fucking week of. And it still sold the pay-per-view.
Like 72 hours before the fucking pay-per-view.
Which is disgusting because all four of these guys poured their heart and soul into this trilogy. There's not been a better tag team feud since, dare I say, the New Day Usos when both teams were at their high point before the Usos have been on their current run. The Uso run with New Day, that's the only thing that comes even remotely close to this. And even this is better in my opinion.
God, yeah, the Uso New Day feud was the only feud that really kind of really captivated me during the heavy PG era.
Yeah.
Like they were the only ones that made the heavy PG wrestling seemingly work.
And they actually found a way to make a Hell in a Cell match different and actually feel like a good Hell in a Cell match. Because usually it's copy paste, cookie cutter. But they found ways to make it different because it was a tag team match. They found a way to make it different. And those teams are both still around. But the fact that FTR and the Briscoes wanted to do this series of matches for so long, and they finally got to do it, and it was just as good as we'd hoped. So this was so fucking awesome for me. I was so glad that this happened, and I hope it's not over, honestly. Though if it is, like, it was perfect. It should have happened in AEW, but I digress. So
yeah, AEW kind of shit the bed with FTR.
Oh, more on that later.
Yeah.
Well, mostly because the Young Bucks didn't want to get shown up, and also whenever they're in the ring with the Young Bucks, FTR makes them look like small children.
More on that later. All right, let's move
Tony's
on.
got a lot to say later. Oh no.
Well, there's not a lot of categories left, thankfully. So let's we're down to
three.
Yeah, we're down to male wrestler of the year, tag team of the year, and men's match of the year. So should we just go to tag team of the year?
Yep. Since we're on the tag, I'm going to go ahead, and I know this is going to be a controversial pick. I don't know why, but I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this. The tag team of the year, the undisputed tag team champions, Usos. The motherfuckers have had one fuck of a run. They're part of the bloodline, which is the hottest thing going in wrestling right now. We haven't had a unified tag team champion in fucking decades in WWE. Tony, let the commentators have their moment. Okay? Like, don't let the truth get in the Tony, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. God damn it. Come on now. This is pro wrestling. Okay. In many, many, many years, we have not had, and I think it's at least been a decade since we've had a unified tag team champions. And it's the Usos in the era where everybody's got a belt. They're able to put multiple on them. And they got multiple on Roman. To me, the tag team of the year is undoubtedly, undisputedly the Usos.
They're definitely my number 2 pick. They are hands down my number 2 pick because the visual of them with the undisputed double belts, with Roman and the undisputed 2 belts, the bloodline stuff, especially towards the end of the year, it's been fantastic. But for me, what
You can't give it to FDR. It's
what
just
knocks the Usos.
the three of us and Jim Cornette have been the only one who've watched him this year.
Give me a second. What knocks the Usos down a peg for me was before Sami Zayn joined the bloodline. The Usos were the ones made to look like fucking clowns. Like Drew McIntyre would come out, knock the shit out of both of them, and then come pay-per-view time, they're on the pre-show. Once Sami Zayn joined the fold, he was able to start eating the pinfalls that the Usos had to do beforehand. It wasn't until that happened that the bloodline really shot up the ranks in terms of actual dominance, and they were able to save face and be built strongly. And like I said, I could only pinpoint like one really, truly strong Usos match this year. But don't get me wrong, they've had a stellar year, possibly their best year, maybe their second best year. I don't know, but it's up there. They've had a fantastic year. They look like $1 million. I'm excited to see what they do with them in 2023. But for me, yeah, I am going to go with FTR. And let me just give you this resume real quick. This is FTR's 2022. In January, FTR defeats the Rock and Roll Express. In February, Moxley and Punk defeat FTR. March, FTR defeats Hermanos Lee to win the AAA titles. In April, FTR defeat the Briscoes to win the ROH titles. In April, FTR defeat the Bucks to retain the ROH and AAA titles. In May, FTR defeats Roppongi Vice to retain the ROH titles. In June, Punk and FTR defeat Max Caster and the Guns. June, FTR defeats the American Wolves. June, FTR defeats Roppongi Vice and United Empire to win the IWGP titles. In July, FTR defeats the Briscoes in a 2 out of 3 falls match to retain the ROH titles. September, FTR and Wardlow defeat Motor City Machine Guns and Jay Lethal, some of the best out of TNA back in the day. October, FTR defeats Aussie Open at Royal Quest 2 to retain the IWGP titles. November, FTR and Steamboat defeat Lethal, Aldis, and Brock Anderson. And in December, the Briscoes defeat FTR in the dog collar match, and they lose the ROH tag team titles. So, granted, they have been shuffled to the back of the deck. They've been buried on Ring of Honor television, but they've also gone on AAA TV. They've also gone to New Japan. They've basically put in all the work across 4 different promotions. They've wrestled some of the truly great names, the fucking Rock and Roll Express and Ricky Steamboat involved in that, plus CM Punk and Sting, for God's sake. Sting was in there too somewhere. These guys have wrestled some of the who's who. They've wrestled some of the current best of the best, Bucks included. I mentioned that earlier. They've held the AAA tag team titles, the IWGP titles, and the Ring of Honor tag team titles, and they were going to verifiably hold the AAW titles this year. They were going to hold 4 major tag team championships this year until the Bucks decided, yeah, we could do that trilogy of matches, but you're already doing that trilogy with the Briscoes, so we're just going to not do that, and we're going to drop the belts to Swerve in Our Glory so we don't have to, lose that 3rd match to you guys, and we're going to go do this little trios tag team title thing with Kenny now. And since then, FTR has been punished for that. They've barely been shown on TV, but when they are, they still knock out banger after banger after banger, and they're still having Ricky fucking Steamboat, for God's sake. These guys have had a resume building 2022, almost had 4 tag team titles at the same time in 2022, and they had the trilogy of matches that, for me, was one of the best trilogies, not of just the year, but in the last I can fucking remember. Plus, they've had other matches this year that have been fucking stellar. So for me, FTR, hands down. Had they been booked even better, it wouldn't even be a debate.
Yeah, to me, Tony, exposure is the one thing, and it's
Yeah.
The lack of
it's
exposure
the one thing that
does
kind of
hurt,
knocks them off
but the
the
resume is
top.
there.
They're
The
top
resume is
5,
there.
but they're not number 1.
The
Because
resume is
Chicken, when
there.
you think back to this year, are you going to think of FTR or are you going to think of Usos 2 belts hanging over their fucking necks like the bad motherfuckers they are?
I think
I was gonna
3
think
belt.
about talking, but Jesus Christ, both of you right
Please,
now are
Chicken,
amped
go
up as
ahead.
shit. Jesus. No, Tony, what you said there at the very end is exactly why I didn't have FTR as my number 1. They should be number 1. They should be
They are the
everybody's
best
number
tag
1. They are
Yep.
the best, most talented, most entertaining
Yep.
tag team out there. However, AEW did jack all shit with them for the last half of the year. They were on this massive, awesome run, and then it's just kind of like, I don't know. But what have I heard since July? The dog collar match, and I haven't even watched that one.
Well, dog collar match was in December.
That's why I said. Did I say December? I thought
You
I said
said July.
December.
July was the second.
Since July, all they've had is that dog collar match, like of
Well,
notable.
they've had plenty.
No,
They
of
just didn't put it
notoriety. What are
anywhere.
people talking about? Yeah, like because AEW sucks at like promoting and
Mhm.
getting any of this shit out there. So, but Phil makes the greatest point, and we all have to do the my tribal chief. The Usos. I get your argument with Sami Zayn, but I think that all you did was make the point that they're involved with Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn's the best storyline in WWE the entire year.
That for me is what that's what goes the other way for me though.
I
because
think
they
that gives
were
them a
eating the
rub.
pins.
I think
They
that's
were
good
eating
thing.
the
That just
pins
makes it
until
better.
Sami- They were the ones eating the pins before Sammy showed up, and then once Sammy showed up, he started eating the pins.
But he
and he
makes the
still got-
story better.
He
It's
still
great.
got over more than the Usos. That's the difference for me.
Oh, I love it. I don't give a shit. The whole thing's been great.
I
Usos,
look,
Bloodline's the greatest storyline of the
if you
year.
would've asked
Sami
me-
Zayn's the greatest part of that whole goddamn thing, and the Usos are riding that train. We the ones, Usos.
I'll
Tag
put it
team of
this
the
way.
year.
It's going to be the
Since
Usos.
day
That's
one.
against my better judgment.
Now you know how I feel with the Vince McMahon
No,
thing.
look.
Man,
If we had this show in July, I would have legit ended the stream and come to Shickley to fight Phil over this one because that's how strongly I felt about FTR. But here's the thing. The Usos, like I said, once they got Sami Zayn into the fold and they were able to make themselves not look like the fucking jobbers of the group, they started to look a lot more imposing. And the way that they finished the year, especially at Survivor Series, they looked like $1 million. Now, granted, it wasn't just them having great tag team matches doing great storylines to do it. They had to be held up by Roman Reigns, which is why it put them
Not
in the
all the
back
time.
seat to FTR. No, it 100% did.
I was about to
Because
say,
when you think of the
now-
bloodline, you're not thinking of Jimmy and Jey Uso. You're thinking of Roman Reigns.
Chicken,
They're not the forefront.
the reason Tony isn't coming down to Shickley and wanting to fight me over this is because we basically gave every Briscoes versus FTR match the tag team match of the year.
No,
And
but
that's
it's
like,
not
that's
just
like, oh, Tony's like, okay, that's
No, it's
Yeah,
because
they get a
it's
good
because of
win.
the Bucks. It's because of the Bucks burying
Yeah.
FTR. Because once they saw FTR had gotten themselves over to the point where the crowd didn't care if they were babyface, heel, who they were wrestling, it didn't matter. As soon as they saw that, they're like, well, the only way we can prevent them from getting more over is to just not book them. And that's what
Now-
they've done. Now FTR gets maybe 30-second pre-taped vignettes in the backstage. They have to go wrestle in Mexico and Japan to have matches, and they've been delegated to the Ring of Honor brand, which barely has a platform. That's the only way that they've been able to bury these guys who are head and shoulders the best tag team in wrestling today, and it's not even close. Like I said, the resume speaks for itself. They've had 4 out of 5 or 6 of my favorite tag team matches in 2022. And the tag team match category for me has been far more memorable than the singles match category for male or female because of FTR. For me, it's still FTR, but the latter stages of 2022, I understand the argument. I might not agree with it fully, but the Usos did have a banner fucking year.
Now, I do have to ask, is this our 4th or 5th year in review? I think it's our 4th.
Oh, golly. Let me double check on
Regardless, that's not important, but I do
important.
think if once we get to the 5th year in review, we should probably look over who's gotten the most. And I guarantee you FTR is going to be nominated for more things than any other tag team over the last 4 or 5 years. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is they are one of the best tag teams of this decade. The problem is, like you said, is their booking, but I also got to say,
WWE
even
was booking, and now it's
well, hang on here. It's one of the virtues of AEW, even if you don't like the way that they're getting booked and they're at least in AEW, they have an opportunity. You know what? Fuck you then. We can go all around the world and we're going to get ourselves over in spite of it. And so that's at least better than what they'd get in WWE, where they'd be getting oozy hot and doing butt scoots. I get that. So I would put FTR as a contender for next year's tag team of the year. Usos, though, you got to give it to the Bloodline. You got to acknowledge your tribal chief and your tribal tag team.
Like I said, the way they were able to,
tribal chief.
That's my tribal chief.
The way the Usos were able to finish out the year and not just be background body.
They were also one of the busiest tag teams of any fucking name brand.
Right. But they're not just doing curtain jerk or pre-show duty now. That's the point.
But they're doing Raw, SmackDown, and then the main events. Like, they are on everything. Those boys have been busy, and damn.
So Usos tag team of the year.
We're
down to 2.
2019, 2020, and 2021. So this
is our 5th year.
This is our 5th year in review.
Wow.
We're gonna have to look back at that 2018 year in review. Phil, you're wearing a hat and an eye patch.
God, that's right. I almost lost my eye just a few months ago when that one went down. And so, that was fun. That was fun.
In closing, this one would have pissed me off way more in August. But no, the Usos at least did have one of those memorable tag team matches. And the way they finished the year was great. FTR got buried. That's not their fault. And their work rate is second to none, in my opinion.
All righty. So we have 2 categories left: the wrestler of the year and the match of the year.
Let's go with match. I think we don't need to bury the lead. We know what's probably going to happen in male wrestler of the year.
Yeah.
So do we want to go with that, or do we want to go with that?
Let's do that. Why is it not Roman?
Yes, my tribal chief. I'm my tribal chief. Yes, my tribal chief. It has to be my tribal chief. It is the one, the only Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. I mean, I'm sorry. He is the Roman Reigns. He is the tribal chief.
Is this across the board? Because I'm assuming it is.
This is Roman Sammartino. Yeah. We are watching the legendary reign that is going to defeat Bruno Sammartino's reign, and we're going to see an incredible thing. Yes, the male wrestler of the year.
Trey, I fucking love that comment.
Roman Reigns.
You got comments? Go ahead.
Oh no! I was just starting to like you, Trey. Phil was just this Crenshaw face.
He turned to the dark side.
Wait, isn't Crenshaw on the dark side?
Yeah, Crenshaw is fucking. He's joined the Sith. I'm sorry, he's not.
All right,
he's
not. Go ahead and give your reasoning for why it's Roman Reigns. Not like anybody's going to disagree.
Tribal chief unified the belts at Mania. He's had just banner year. Nobody's been able to stop him. He's had 5-star classics with Logan fucking Paul. He's been able to make us interested in the 7,000th encounter of Brock versus Roman. He's been able to really hold our attention. He somehow, some way made you believe that he was going to somehow drop the belt to Drew McIntyre, which that is the best fucking, that's one hell of a worker. He made you believe that Drew McIntyre had any chance of ending Roman Sammartino's reign. Hell, he even made me believe that Seth Rollins had a chance for that one time. Oh, fuck, he could actually do this. So Roman truly is the Ric Flair, the Ricky Steamboat, the fucking workhorse fucking... He is the guy. He's wearing not Hogan's boots, not just Hogan's boots, not just Austin's boots. He's wearing Samar fucking Tino's boots. He's wearing London's boots. He's wearing Ed Strangler Lewis's fucking boots, okay? Roman is the guy, and he's going to hold on to that belt, and he's going to take it to Hollywood. And Hollywood's going to be able to say, Fast and the Furious 16 with WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns in their movie. So, yeah, Roman is the man, and he's probably going to be Wrestler of the Year next year as well.
I'd say my reasons for it is, you remember when they were really trying to push Roman over and it just wasn't working and nobody liked it, and nobody wanted it, and everybody hated it. He's a totally different guy now. Like the Roman you see today, if you would have saw that one however many goddamn years ago that we had to suffer through the insufferable matches and the horrible booking and the push of look at Roman, he's so great. And nobody wanted to see it. And we all hated all of that. If you had Roman today doing that, then with the likes of Sami Zayn, the Usos, and everybody else that's around the bloodline, it would have worked then. In this to me is just like a fascinating story of the evolution of Roman Reigns from where he was to what he always should have been. Like the other day they're watching the Usos on a tag team match, and there's this tension between Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns, and Sami Zayn sitting there eating popcorn. And he's sitting next to Roman Reigns. You got, they're all sitting there in the room watching. And Sammy's like, hey, Roman, you want some popcorn? And Roman's like, no. And it cuts away. And then all of a sudden it cuts back. And then there's Paul Heyman with his own popcorn and Roman with his own popcorn. He goes, because I got my own. They're just much like, so they like, you're like, oh no, are they mad at Sammy? And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh no, we're all doing this together. And they're all excited to watch the match just like Sammy was. Like, it's so fun to see these different sides of Roman when they crack up in the ring. Now, granted, I still think a lot of this is because of Sammy. Just alone, he's causing a lot of this awesome shit to happen. Without
he's getting
Sammy,
himself over doing this.
Without Sammy, the bloodline this year is nothing. I'm just gonna say it probably wouldn't be over as it is now. But he has helped Roman make it. Like, I'm a fan of Roman now because you get to see like when he does crack, it's at the right moment, and you're like, I would have cracked too. Like, no matter how good of an actor are you would have fucking cracked and laughed at that shit. So you get to see a little bit of the theatrics, but all at the same time you get to see a little bit of the realness. But his in-ring performance actually, I thought was way better this year than last year. I was a critic of him last year, even though he was rolling over everybody. I was a critic because I thought some matches were pretty lame and pretty dull. But this year, they have all been solid. They're not all world beaters and the best matches ever, but they are all solid matches, and they are convincing matches, and they were entertaining matches. Fighting.
Yeah, for me, it's funny because this has been going on. He's well over 400 days. Well, I guess technically here in early January, he did lose a match finally. He didn't get pinned, but Roman hadn't been defeated in a match in over 400 days. His title reign has been record breaking. He hasn't even come close to losing matches, but ever since he came back, and it was just a very subtle, he's in the back, he's sitting with Paul Heyman, and then immediately he capitalizes on a match, wins the belt, and has been on an absolute tear since. He's finally on that heel run that they should have done 7 years ago. Instead of forcing him down our throats like they did with Cena. And it worked eventually with Cena. It was never going to work with Roman Reigns because as a babyface, Roman Reigns is not charismatic. As a heel, Roman Reigns is very charismatic because he's cool, calm, calculated, and has that dead stare. He's imposing. He's intimidating. It's not John Cena. He never was going to be John Cena. He's finally found that groove. And when this finally ends, it's actually going to be very, very, very bittersweet. I'm not just talking about him losing the title. I'm talking about when he finally says, I'm going to be very, very, very part-time. But right now, he's in the best run of his life. Granted, Sami Zayn has done a ton of that legwork for him. The Usos have not just been background guys. They've done their part this year. Solo Sikoa has been that background guy, filled that void.
Dude, Solo Sikoa the last few months, man, he's an up and comer.
Absolutely. And
he's going to be big.
They had Jake Paul kind of like pause back to him and sell for him for a second. So, and it looked legitimate. So they're putting him over like a motherfucker.
Yep.
But Paul
I
Heyman
like it though.
Has been this might be the best Paul Heyman we've ever seen, because Brock Lesnar needed Paul Heyman. Roman Reigns doesn't technically need him, but the way that Paul Heyman sells in the background, not just outside of the ring.
Oh, it's brilliant.
In the background of every segment. It's next level emotive.
200%.
It's incredible.
Now, Tony, you raise an interesting point here, and I want you to think about
Roman Reigns is a month older than me.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, think about this, guys. I want you to think about this. Tony said something very interesting, and it suddenly had a light bulb go on over my head. You want to know why Paul's putting in 200%? Paul's always had a certain goal in life, and he almost got there, but then he didn't quite. Brock Lesnar needed Paul Heyman to get to that next level. He needed Paul Heyman to talk for him. He needed Paul Heyman to hype him. However, Paul Heyman needs Roman Reigns if he wants to break back into Hollywood.
There it is.
And so that's why Paul's putting in 200%, because for first time in his life, he needs somebody, not the other way around.
And it's beautiful because it's been such a good pairing from the very beginning. They teased this before, and when it finally happened, it made so much sense. This has been fantastic. Every match that Roman Reigns has had, every feud, if you can even call it that, every segment he's had has been must-see TV. It's the only thing worth watching if you're only going to watch one thing on WWE programming. It's the Bloodline stuff. Granted, they're all putting the work in. But Roman Reigns, like it or not, he is the big money draw right now. He's having the big time matches. He's big match John right now. It doesn't matter if you like him, hate him, think he sucks in the ring. He's having that top tier level match every time he goes out there. You're going to tune in to see it, because could this be the one he loses, even though I know damn well he's not going to lose. And he still makes you believe.
Drew McIntyre. Oh, sorry.
Roman's
it's the year of Roman.
Game.
Chicken, any objections?
Absolutely none. Roman Reigns, our tribal chief, is the male wrestler of the year.
Yes, my tribal chief. Oh, yes, my tribal chief. Oh, please, my tribal chief. Oh, yes. So, yes, and thank you, Paul Heyman, for all the memories on that as well. So, we arrive to the main event, the best male wrestling match of the year. Now, there's going to be a very interesting juxtaposition here, because there is an obvious choice. There is an obvious choice for match of the year. And Tony is going to do all he can to convince us that that match is not the best match of the year.
I do have an argument for it, yes.
What's that?
I do have an argument, yes.
Yes, of course, T. Of course. So with that being said, T, why don't we just let you rip the Band-Aid off and tell us what's your nominee for match of the year?
What's mine?
Yes.
I don't know if I want to give mine away yet.
You see, I knew how Tony's speech was going to
work. I know
work.
your psychology, Phil.
I know exactly what it is, but no, okay, folks. Well, I'm going to trudge forward ahead anyways, because Tony's got his prepared speech and he cannot deviate. But me, on the other hand, Phil KOE, I can go off the fly. I have never I've never prepared. Tony, I haven't prepared for anything or done my full homework since the 4th grade. So I've been like, so when I do all this talking here, Tony, I don't do any preparation. I don't work hard. I was given a gift from God. Okay. That's the difference. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. The best match of the year, the one that held you, captivated you, gave you the emotional roller coaster ride, the one that really broke that idea and it made you believe for just a little while. And here's the biggest one. Here's the clincher. Here's the cincher. When you think back 5 years from now, when the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast is the most popular podcast in all pro wrestling history, and billions, not millions, but billions of subscribers and listeners, and we look back on 2000 and you visualize 2022, the first and most vivid match that you're going to remember is Cody versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell, because you could visually see with your two eyeballs, Cody is coming in hurt like a motherfucker, and this guy had the guts, the balls, the intestinal fortitude, and temerity to fight through it anyways, to give us the best fucking match of the year. Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes. So chicken in a way, your Seth pick comes back again to be the returning hero and save the day with Seth versus Cody.
That's Phil trying to talk me into voting for whatever he picks, because Tony's
I'm
about
glad
to counter.
I mean, but come on, T. If you had to oh, you son of a bitch. That's a good fucking sales pitch, you piece of shit.
Damn it, that's his persuasion kicking in.
Golly.
So,
if
Tony,
only we wouldn't have seen through that.
So, golly gee. Well,
you're just going to call it out like that.
I mean, we just got to throw facts in my face. Like
Tony, what kind of counter pick would you have for that? Because
so I have
obviously one of the 6-man tag matches with Kenny Omega.
Fuck you.
That's obviously Tony's pick.
God no. So I actually have two, and it's been
match,
really,
wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, is that shot?
Wow.
Can I get Shotzi, Liv, and Ronda in a triple threat?
I'm glad I wasn't drinking there, man. I would have had a spit take.
That's so bad.
I've got a couple, and I'm actually still trying to talk myself into which one I want to pick. But my counter to Phil's argument, granted, Cody Rhodes has balls of steel. Now, I can't disagree with that, because the guy worked a Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins, who did everything in his power to take the best possible care of the guy in the world, while still making both men look like $1 million. Mm-hmm. And they put together a very strong match. My counter is
FTR is such a great tag team.
I'm going to boot chicken from the stream now, which is true. Somehow, if I could 7 degrees bacon this,
I'm waiting for him to nominate a tag team as the best match.
Dax Harwood.
Dax Harwood did have some great singles matches, but that's not.
No, goddamn.
Listen to me. All right, my one complaint and gripe.
Danhausen.
There we go. All right, so my one gripe with the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell match. All right, so let's remember back. Like when Cody left AEW, it was supposed to be a big secret, big surprise. Instead,
it was the worst kept secret ever. Yeah.
No, it was. It would have been fine, but the Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Chris Jericho all went out in the public and verified it and ruined it. Why? Because they're fucking petty pieces of shit pricks. Nevertheless, Cody Rhodes shows up at WrestleMania, has a debut match against Seth Rollins, and it's fucking fire. The crowd loved it. He's Cody Rhodes. He's the Cody Rhodes from AEW from just that year. He has his music. He looks great. It's fantastic. Amazing match. Another reason WrestleMania was so good this year. The rematch, it was a good match. Really good match. I didn't love the finish. It felt a little weak. This is the one where Rollins should have went over. Instead, Cody kind of got one over on him.
Wasn't that the surprise roll-up win?
Yeah.
Is that what he... Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, that's the one that Rollins should have won. But instead, Cody gets a surprise win. The third, the trilogy match, Hell in a Cell. Right before the match goes down, Cody tears his pec. One of the worst pec tears you can imagine. The guy's goddamn body was purple.
Looks like he
quarter of
basically damn near tore his own titty off.
Yeah, but the damage is done. It's not going to get worse at this point. Rollins took care of him. The match was good, given the
What
circumstances.
doctor told him that? I'm like, it's fucked up.
Right.
You really can't
You
fuck
shouldn't.
up.
Like I
you can't
said-
make it any worse.
like I
Fucking
said-
go.
Balls of steel. Did the match anyway, but Cody got the W. Here's my argument. This will always be my argument. Cody went 3-0 against Rollins. Kind of hurt Rollins. Cody got the win against Rollins in match 2 that Rollins should have got. Since he didn't get that, in match 3, Cody has a legitimate, visible injury. That's the match Cody should have lost. He should have still had that god tier balls of steel. I'm going to win this match in spite of this injury, and then just fall. Just short. That way, when he comes back, they have an excuse to do match number 4. But instead, if they do match 4 now, I've already beaten you 3 times, and the third time I was basically knocking on death's door in Hell in a Cell, and I still managed to beat you. So I beat you in a debut. I beat you in the rematch with a surprise roll-up. And in match 3 in Hell in a Cell, I had a torn pec, and I still beat you flat. Why the fuck would we do a match 4? Match number 3, that's when Cody should have lost, and I mean just barely.
No,
They had
because
a chance to tell that story, but they opted not to because they have
All right.
different plans.
because when
Whatever.
Cody comes back at the Rumble, he comes back with all the momentum. Everybody knows he's
That's not
got
in
balls of
2022.
steel.
No.
But no, that's why they
Yeah.
did it that year. And to me, like Tony, I gotta give you credit. You're like, all right, Phil, I'm gonna counter your Cody Rhodes, and I'm gonna raise you more Cody Rhodes.
That's right.
Son of a bitch, brilliant. But Chicken, it's gonna come down to you. Is it Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, or is it Cody Rhodes?
I didn't
Hell in a
nominate Cody
I
Rhodes.
was saying he hasn't nominated anything yet. He just he romanticized what he
I-
thought should have happened with Cody Rhodes
did.
and hasn't
Which
given us
disagreeing with
anything
the
yet.
finish isn't a reason to discount a great
Oh,
match.
absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. It's part of the match. But nevertheless, that's my argument. Now, the 2 matches that I'm having a tough time picking between, and I'm going to pick one. Phil, I already know your thoughts on this, but Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at Clash of the Castle.
Good match.
No, it was a fantastic match. Both guys were on their A game. The crowd was as raucous as it could possibly get. The false finishes meant more than they have in a long time, and especially between these 2 guys, because these guys have had a long-standing rivalry. They've had a ton of matches. This is hands down my favorite between the 2. And granted, we knew it was likely going to be a Roman win, and I tried my hardest to talk myself into it, and they even almost decided to pull the trigger, but they didn't. Regardless,
Tony's
match-
trying to get some
the
sort of
match-
moral victory from
the
this.
match was fucking fantastic.
That
These
match
guys
has
had
been
the
bugging him
crowd
since that night.
eating out of the palm of their hand. It was fucking great. It was one of my favorite matches of the year, regardless of the outcome. Doesn't matter. It was a great match.
Was a great match.
And it speaks to why Roman was Wrestler of the Year, because this is the quality of fucking match you would get out of him every time he went out there. And Drew McIntyre's nothing to sneeze at either, even though in their best efforts to fucking bury him. My other one, which I am ultimately going to pick, which I'm sure nobody's going to back me up on,
Then why do we even hear about that one? What the fuck?
because it bears mentioning. Jesus,
Because
Jim,
you've been holstering
in
that
the
since
first
he
3
lost.
installments-
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the first 3
That's an
installments
honor.
of the
I'll
year
give you
review-
that. That's an honorable mention. I'll give you that.
In the first 3 installments of the year in review, we spent a lot of time reviewing the contenders. Now,
Yeah.
what I'm going to ultimately pick is going to be MJF and Punk in the dog collar match, because this
That
was
was a good
old
one.
school. This was drama filled. It was bloody. If you're gonna do weapons, this is how you do weapons.
It was
The
a
long-
fun match. To
The
watch.
long-term
That-
storytelling for the culmination of the feud of the year was this match, and it was put on full display. These guys showed what pro wrestling not only still can be today in 2022, but what it was in the 70s and 80s and sometimes in the 90s. This was a great example of having the crowd invested in something that's very basic, with a modern twist, with an old grizzled vet, with a young up-and-comer, and now the world champion. This match was fucking fantastic, and this is my pick for match of the year amongst the men.
Now, Tony, you raised some good points. Chicken?
I'm gonna say I bring this up often with both of you, like when I'm put in the kind of position to where I really have to think about it. Because Tony, you make a really good point. That was probably the best AEW match of the year for sure. Like that was
hands down.
I remember that when as soon as you started talking about it, I was like, Jesus, yeah, that was fun to watch. Like,
yeah,
it really
fun. Exactly.
It brought me back to that watching that, and I was like, damn, that was a really good one. However, I always harken back to kind of like why I got back into watching wrestling. And it's like, it's one of those things to where two things, it's a little nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
And the other is my kids, at the time of these matches, he was 13, he just turned 14. And it's like, what are those moments that your kid's going to remember? And I remember the look on his face when Cody Rhodes ripped that jacket off. And he was starting to get disinterested from wrestling. I remember up until that point. And then he saw Cody Rhodes take that off and he saw that pec muscle and he goes, holy shit. And he sat down on the chair and he's like, I got to watch this. Like, it was one of those moments as a child he's always going to remember. To where dudes whipping each other with dog collars, as fun as it is for an adult, I remember trying to get him to come back and watch some of that one. Didn't have the same effect, but the drama, the story, and everything that came with the Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins match and how it ended. Yeah, Tony, I don't disagree. I wish that Rollins would have won the second one to make the third one even more important
or vice versa.
Yeah. Like I get it, but that's a fairy tale and nobody could have planned it out because it is what it is. And Vince was like being crazy and probably didn't remember at that time. Vince didn't know what he booked last Monday when he was booking the next Raw show. So he probably forgot that there was ever a Cody and Seth match to begin with. So we can throw all that out the window because the visual, the drama, the effects, and the overall outcome, and because you're not going to have Cody around for probably almost a year, you better make Cody stand tall if he's not coming back for probably a year. So I don't disagree with how that one ended. I think it was just a bad circumstance that they were forced into, and it was, you have to do it this way. There's no other way to do it. You have to do it.
It's because he wasn't going to be there the next night, but he got the W clean, and then Rollins still had to be there. He was already the next 2 on
Rollins, so even if he lost to Rollins with an injury, it wouldn't have mattered. You could still make the same argument, so it didn't matter to begin with. So they said, "Fuck it, give it to him."
If he would have come out just ahead, he would have been like, "I'm the one that injured Cody," and he could have run with that for 9-10 months. Even though he didn't, that just would have been that chicken shit thing to do. Like, he had to be there, and he had to continue competing. Cody was going to go away. I wish
Cody had a little keeps more that time. Shiny new toy aspect to him.
I know. That's the
does.
Thing.
That's it, Phil. That's it.
That's why it should have been the second match. Rollins should have gotten the.
Well, no, him being undefeated, he's the shiny new toy.
But we've proven,
even though he's been here for a year, which is brilliant.
It's been proven that undefeated doesn't mean shit if you at least make the circumstances.
All he's gonna have a do.
Make the circumstances understandable to the audience when they observe them. Make it understandable to the most dipshit a person that would just be channel surfing. Then they can understand the loss. If you make the loss just wishy-washy and flat for no reason, then it doesn't mean shit. But if Cody Rhodes with a real visible, legitimate injury comes up just short in a Hell in a Cell match, that's believable. That's storytelling. If they would have had a slightly bigger window, maybe they go that way. But again, you're right, Chicken. This was Vince McMahon, very erratic booking right up close to when
I tell you what, here's one thing you're going to hate this, Tony and Phil. Let me know what you think. They could do that Cody story every year, 3 matches a year for the next 10 years, and it would be it would go
Pick the
over
right guy,
every
Yep.
time if they pick the right guy.
Yep, those two just have great chemistry.
Well,
Now, granted,
it could just
Seth-
be Cody and
Seth
insert name here.
Rollins. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you also got to keep in mind, every generation there's this one wrestler that has this spot, and this is going to sound like an insult, but it's actually not. Seth Rollins is the X-Pac of our generation, in
Ooh.
that Vince McMahon would be like, okay, I'm going to throw you in the ring with X-Pac, and if you cannot get a good match out of X-Pac, you are not going to be a good fit here in WWE.
X-Pac is one of the most underrated dance partners you could have in the wrestling.
Yes, and there's a reason why, like, he was in 58 great tag teams and about 13 shitty ones. Okay, because like like sometimes
he was
they would just
training
with
dudes
everybody.
on the mat. Yeah,
and so and Seth is that guy. Like, he will have a good match with anybody, and if you tag with him, he's going to be giving you on-the-job training, and so that's why. So, Chicken, you are going with Cody versus Seth, Hell in a Cell.
Absolutely.
As am I.
I'm not going to argue this pick because, like it or not, the booking be damned. Look, I would have booked it differently. I'm not the booker. I might be better than Vince, but that's neither.
I would have loved it more. Like, if the winners had changed hands a little bit differently. I agree with you on that. It would have made it even more special if they would have booked it right on the match too, where Seth wins. Then
but
the third one.
If you have Cody win that
this
match,
is the son of Dusty Rhodes. I ain't doing no job in front of 40,000 people. Baby.
If he would have lost the second one, even hook or crook, and then with the injury still wins the third, that's the biggest story you can tell. That's what they missed out on, to be honest. That's all they missed out on.
That was the second way I would have gone with it.
But like, to me, I just maintain him winning all three. He's a fresh new toy. Nobody's beat him. He's the most likely opponent for Roman Reigns if The Rock falls out and he doesn't make it this year for WrestleMania.
That's my problem here. Like,
but the problem is, if Cody doesn't beat him at Mania, then who the fuck does?
There it is. I'm gonna repeat. I'm gonna mirror things I've been saying about Cody Rhodes for a long time now, since the inception of this channel. Look, Cody Rhodes, great worker, great wrestler, great mind for the business. When he agents matches, he
books
gets
himself a little hard.
He gets a little too up his own ass with stuff. And you can look at any of his major matches in AEW, and you can see what the fuck
they were all like that, especially towards the end. It got really bad.
Tony, his booking would make my booking of myself seem selfless and not self-indulgent. Okay,
if you took 50% of the outside interference and all those main main card matches on pay-per-view, take away the outside interference, take away a couple of the weapon spots, and dial it back just a touch, and Brandy, the matches would have been immediate 5-6 stars fucking matches, classics. But it's like, it almost takes you out because he tries to do too much. He's got all these great ideas, but he tries to shoehorn them all into the same fucking shoe. Like, you've got 2 feet, dude. There's going to be another foot going into another shoe. You don't have to get all the feet into one shoe, but he tries. Now in WWE, he's been a little more handcuffed in that regard, but he did get handcuffed with the injury at the same time.
We saw what he did in AEW. He might need the handcuffs from time to time.
You know what he's thinking long term right now? He's thinking, how do I get myself in a ring with Uncle Howdy, Bray Wyatt, and the Feud?
That'll make me fucking
in a fatal 4-way.
Oh yeah,
that's a license to print money.
Let me just say this about Cody, because
dude, I'm calling it. I'm calling it. That's going to happen. Not probably this year, but next year.
God, don't say that. With Cody,
Uncle Howdy will be buried and forgotten in 3 months.
Probably. For Cody, with me, I have tempered expectations. Great worker, great storyteller, great wrestler, great mind, but it's just he always tries to do too much. Now, if he can temper that in WWE, the guys, all he has to do is keep the crowd on his side, which he's done in WWE. In AEW, they fucking turned on him because he got too far up his own ass. But he was an executive VP at the time. Now, if he can keep the crowd on his side and they can keep the momentum going, he's going to do great things. Now, that being said, I will say this. If he comes back at the Rumble, if he wins the Rumble, or even if he doesn't, if he gets that WrestleMania match and they do the split match with Rock and Cody one night, other night, whatever, I don't think he beats Roman at WrestleMania. I don't think he does. I think he gets a rematch before the end of the year and does win it then in Madison Square Garden to win the belt that his daddy should have won in Madison Square Garden. But I don't think he'll win at WrestleMania.
So that's your idea for wow, that's an idea. You think night 1 of WrestleMania will be Roman, night 2 of WrestleMania will be Roman?
See, I don't know where they're going to go with this, because if they strip him of a belt like they're kind of talking about, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Nobody will accept
at WrestleMania. We're going to split.
It's going to be if they yank it off of him, it's not going to work. They're going to have to.
Yeah,
they're going to fuck him over.
They'll take all the wind out of the sails. Phil Kelly, Cody Rhodes, 2020. So Cody Rhodes, my running mate.
They'll come up with a scheme to fuck him over. Like whether it's a new faction or something's going to happen to fuck him over.
That's why I was thinking if they do the split night thing, they're like, okay, you're going to defend the WWE title on night 1. You're going to defend the Universal title on night 2. Then he loses to Cody night 2, and he's got an excuse then, right?
Rock ain't doing night 1. Rock is main event night.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's just a working theory, but that's kind of what but ultimately I think Cody
Rock ain't coming to the building.
I think Cody needs to lose the first match. Lose the first match, and
so
then
are you thinking
in Madison Square Garden?
Are you thinking he beats Cody on night 1, loses to The Rock on night 2? That means Rock has to show up for one more pay-per-view.
Roman Reigns is not losing to The Rock.
Guys, no. Tony, you're on to something here. Brilliant here. But what they would do is, yes, Roman beats Cody on night 1. Roman beats The Rock on night 2. And he walks away wearing like Bruno's boots that have like the Super Mario when you grab the star. The
Rock is not beating Roman Reigns. It's not happening. Roman will beat The Rock. Mark my words.
Oh, like Trey Powell says, nah, make it KOE McMahon 2024. That way everyone is too busy looking into him to worry about, that's brilliant. It's like, hey, if you impeach me, Vincent Kennedy McMahon is now the president. So, yeah, I'm impeachment proof. So, all right. So, folks.
So how do you take the belts off then?
So you don't, and you just let him have a Cody. You let him have a Bruno Sammartino run, and you have him drop the belt to that gristled veteran Braun Breaker after he's been building for about 7 years.
Hey Phil, sorry, I asked Tony a question.
He's probably going to lose the belts this year. I think Roman's going to lose at least one of the belts inside of 2023, and it's got to be something involving Cody. Like I said, I don't think he wins at WrestleMania. I want to see Cody come back at the Rumble, win the Rumble, go to WrestleMania, come up just short. But then they find an excuse to do a pay-per-view or fuck it, even a house show. Why not? Fuck it, right? At Madison Square Garden. And then you get that goddamn picture of Cody holding up the belt for real this time, winning the belt his daddy didn't win.
You guys both realize in the story arc of the Bloodline, we are reaching the climax of where Sami Zayn's about to come crumbling down.
Yes.
Now, it's got to be something big. Between now and Rumble is the time to build to something big. And then Mania is the fallout. And it's the crescendo, if you will. So you start thinking about that. I don't think Roman's loss or downfall of his belts is necessarily gonna, because of him. We have to think of how the Bloodline's gonna fall apart and how that plays into him losing. Which that story is about to turn. That page, it's up next. You got to keep watching. It's up next. They've been teasing it so hard, and it's around the corner.
Yeah, but I almost fear that like the Bloodline's doing so well. There's always those factions that kind of overstay their welcome. Like that moment they should have broken up, they didn't.
Like NWO.
Oh God! Well, like 15
NWO
times over the
back.
But like there was even a point
and then when the
where
NWO came back.
This is yes, and then when the NWO Silver And then, yeah, like, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of times. I was even saying, like, back in the day, there was even some times when the Four Horsemen even kind of overstayed their welcome, and they had to bring in fresh blood like Malenko and Benoit and folks like that to try and freshen things up. So there's every faction has that perfect moment when they should have done something. And
we're approaching that with the bloodline.
Yes, but I'm afraid that the performers involved in it are having such a fun time, and everybody, like, we're in such a weird moment in WWE that nobody really wants to rock the boat because the office is just a clusterfuck right now. And so it's like, fuck it. The bloodline's drawing tickets. It's making money. We're just going to keep that gravy train rolling. So I could see it. Tony, you're absolutely right. I could see them do Roman main events night 1, night 2, and I think he wins both of them.
He does. I think so. But the one thing I do think we have to mention here is the fact that we're thinking The Rock, we're thinking Cody Rhodes, we're thinking Rumble and WrestleMania. The one thing that I don't think anybody in creative saw coming from the Bloodline storyline in 2022 was the emergence of Sami Zayn. They made
He's
a
Rock this
star.
year. He's
in a time where the only star
why don't we have
mattered
a
is Roman Reigns. They've made Sami Zayn.
Why don't we have like a storyline of the year, character of the year? Because Sami Zayn is the fucking story of the year.
Like, we would have only disagreed because I would have nominated the Bloodline. And so, like, it would have been kind of, it would have been,
it's adjacent,
potato kind of. So, like, so you're absolutely correct with that. But yeah, this has been an interesting year in wrestling. This has been an interesting year in the office. It's been an interesting year in the ring.
Roman's heel work is going on 3 years of why didn't we do this 8 years ago? Roman Reigns as a heel, now with a faction, now with likable characters around him, now with just everything surrounding it. All the talk of WWE is based off of Roman Reigns' heel work in the last year to 2 years to 3 years. And it's been, they all have to be, even Vince himself has to be kicking himself a little bit at this point, going, my God, we
fucked it up so bad for so long.
Why did we not do this sooner? But yeah. Side effect of that, Sami Zayn has emerged as a real star, and that's undeniable at this point. And if you drop the ball on that and don't at least acknowledge that to some respect, all of it was for naught. Because eventually, Roman's not going to be the champion. He's going to lose at least one belt this year, I think. How they do it, I'm not sure. He's not going to hold the belt for 8 years. He's not going to take the belt to Hollywood. You can keep dreaming, Phil. I respect you.
Do you like? I would be willing to make a friendly wager, and we'll get into the exact metrics in the side chat, but I believe that Roman will be champion, both champions, December 31st of 2023 at the stroke of midnight.
Both champs.
Both champs.
Okay.
Yes, at the stroke of midnight, when everybody's going, Happy New Year, the tribal chief will still be the tribal chief.
So 2022, wild fucking year.
And you got to open your envelope.
I'm going to open that real quick. And
first, so your guys' envelope thing was between you two. I'm going to take a potty break and let you guys crack into that bad boy. I'll rejoin you here in a few.
Okay.
Nice.
So before I do that, like I feel like the top 4 stories of 2022, Cody Rhodes leaves All Elite Wrestling after being a fucking pillar, getting that company off the ground unexpectedly, sees through the Elite's bullshit and Tony Khan's mark booking, opts to return to WWE, like I said, to win the belt his daddy didn't win. After a 19-year hiatus, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out of retirement and has a match in the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. Vince McMahon, after countless allegations of sexual misconduct, is forced into retirement from WWE and gives up creative. And amidst one of could have been the only true competition to WWE in decades, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and other names leave WWE, leave retirement to join AEW, try to add credence to this upstart, and are eventually met with pushback, culminating in a all-out real-life brawl between CM Punk, his closest, and the Bucks and Omega in the backstage, ending what could have been a great relationship between all of them and some great business. All of these things truly were the top stories of 2022, and they will shape 2023. It's going to be like, for you, Phil, which was the biggest?
Vince, without a shadow of a doubt, Vince is wrestling, whether we like it or not. Everything in this industry is in Vince's shadow one way or another. And the fact that Nick Khan, even for a short amount of time, was able to pin Vince's shoulders to the mat for the 3 count is astronomical. Is like, I never thought this would ever happen. Vince has been on a decades-long Goldberg undefeated streak. I thought he was the dragon only time would slay, but we saw that there was a couple of kinks in his armor. And now, granted, he's coming back. He's on a redemption arc, if you will. But yeah. I think Vince is. I wouldn't even say redemption arc, but comeback. Yeah, that's really more like, like you think the villain is dead, but then the hand comes up. Like, yeah, that's a little closer to,
All right, Phil, it's time. Let's finish this broadcast, and then I'll hand it off to you guys if Chicken comes back. I'm going to open the envelope from last year's. Tony G's 2022 year-end predictions. Now we have something to compare it to.
FTR.
Fuck you.
And FTR.
All right, opening the envelope. Been sealed for just over a year. And I've got my picks for 2023. Oh, what could have been? My men's match of the year, CM Punk versus Bryan Danielson. Again,
God damn it.
Like, share, subscribe to see my thoughts on that. My women's match of the year, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. God damn it, why didn't they do that? Another missed opportunity. Phil, you're not going to believe this, but my tag team match of the year, Briscoes versus FTR.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's right there.
Well done. You called that one from like basically 8-ball corner pocket, that one.
My men's wrestler of the year maybe would have been had not things happened the way they did, CM Punk. My women's wrestler of the year, they dropped the ball with her, Rhea Ripley.
Damn, they did.
My tag team of the year, and I still stand by this one, FTR.
Okay.
My worst wrestler of the year, and you know what? This still kind of rings true regardless of the year, Nyla Rose.
She's
my wasted wrestler of the year, Braun Breaker. They did okay with him.
Yeah, they made him NXT champion. So I'd say, thankfully, you can call that one wrong.
My event of the year was Royal Rumble. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. And my wrestle shit of the year was just Stadium Stampede, which, don't get me wrong, whatever iteration of it there was this year was pretty bad.
I got to give you calling the tag team match of the year. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that shit wasn't booked when I called it, so I will say that. But
no, well done. Well done. Jim Cornette was just calling for it, and because that's the only thing Tony Khan listens to, it happened. So
that being said, though, I'm going to get signing off here, folks.
I'm
going to let you take this home, so I'm just going to give you
you're
my
getting
outro
flooded
here real quick. Look, I'm your 14-time champ, Tony fucking G, non-chill filtered, non-Kappa friendly, quadruple distilled, and I hope to hold on to this thing heading into Royal Rumble. Will retain, will be your champ more times than not throughout 2023. This is going to be a good year for wrestling. fingers crossed. I have my predictions for next year set, ready to go to give to Phil, since he's not with me in studio tonight. And I cannot wait to see you. Like, share, subscribe for our coverage of the Royal Rumble. Like, share, subscribe to see my thoughts on the matches that AEW could have, should have, and didn't fucking do. And I will catch you on the next one. Phil, take us home.
Folks, all you beautiful people out there, all of you within the sound of my voice and all sundry within the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast and Big Buckin' Empire, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us here at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and Big Buckin' Empire on YouTube and Facebook. Big Buckin' Empire, the place to be for you and me, folks. I am the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your king of extreme, Phil KOE, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the lord of the Scottish Highlands, one damn handsome man if I do say so myself, folks. God bless every last one of you. It's been a great time with all of you. We got through 2022 and we did it, and we came together, me and you, and now we move on to 2023, and we hope it brings us more happiness and glee. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. I hope all of you make it back to the next Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast year in review. Happy, healthy, much the wiser. God bless every last one of you. Catch you on the flip side.
And see if it just smooths itself out.
Back, tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you, raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost, we gotta take it down. Let you down slow, it's hard to survive.